Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Deepest Dive from MinMax. MinMax is a place about games, friends, getting better. And in case you didn't realize, this is the best, most thorough discussion about Resident Evil 4 Remake on the internet. And it's all thanks to your support. My name is Ben Hansen, and this is the grand damn finale. We're joined by Sarah Podzorski.
Hello.
We're joined by Kyle Hilliard.
I'll give you a holy body.
Yeah, buddy. We're joined by special guest, Resident Evil 4 Remake expert, Jacob Geller.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you for joining us for this grand finale. And we're joined by Jeffem, the king of the attaché himself, Mark Yafava.
That's me. I know how to organize a case.
Yeah, what is this? Everybody on chat is lighting you up saying you're the greatest case organizer of all time. What's your secret?
Spend way too much time moving everything around.
So you don't, there's no auto sort. You are meticulous about making it seem beautiful.
I didn't press that button a single time.
Oh, I came to embrace it.
I did too. I wasn't proud of it, but by the end of the game, I was slamming that sucker and it always felt okay. But Sarah, as somebody who saw Jeffem's case, can you describe the face of God to us?
It was immaculate. Like, I thought the auto sort did a pretty good job kind of like grouping things together, but like, it was like looking into like a filing cabinet of a hospital, you know, and they have all those like little colors and they kind of go like all the way to the end. Like that is what it looked like.
God, that's beautiful. This is a 3-part game club discussion about Resident Evil 4 Remake. This is the grand finale. In this discussion, we're covering everything in the game from chapter 12 through the damn ending. So if you don't want spoilers for the Resident Evil 4 Remake, tune out now because we're covering the final third of the game. And Jacob Geller, people all along have been screaming, bring us the Geller, drop the G, when's he coming on? And at a certain point after you said that you've finished this game 14 times, like we're shooting ourselves in the foot by not just having somebody who is so well-versed in this freaking game come on this thing.
I'm very glad to be on the finale. I've really enjoyed like listening to y'all talk about it apart from me, and I'm happy to be here to wrap it up. Yeah. I do have a short list of corrections from things that you've said in previous episodes.
None directed at me, I'm sure. I think a lot of I think I know at least one of them is. Just to go through them in order, the clock tower does not fall down in the original game. The laser sight is not simply preference, it's much more precise than the reticule. The Red 9 is of course the strongest pistol. People call the island of the low point of the game, not the castle, Kyle. The statues hanging upside down were in the original, Ben, and the keys in the Ashley section are not random. They have designs on them, and the chests have designs on them, and they match.
Well, see, look, this is all part of our scheme to grow as an outlet, because I don't know if you've caught it in the other episodes, you say, hey, we might get stuff wrong, and it's up to you to write in by going to patreon.com/minmax with 2 N's to submit your comment, and you can correct us along the way, and you're the only person that's bold enough to actually jump on the show itself.
That's right.
And directly
also, the
scream
keys, that was on purpose to make it scarier, to make it feel like you're fumbling if you ignore very obvious.
It's called,
to be fair, like the snake one kind of looked like a fish, and I disagree with the European interpretation of whatever the amphibian one was.
Yeah, it's called role-playing, Geller. Learn to play a game, dude. Here's the thing. We are going to be talking about the final third of this game. You can unlock the podcast version of the Deepest Dive for this. I mean, we did the original Dead Space. What other Deepest Dives have we done that are kind of like this? 1,000 more Deepest Dives by going to patreon.com/minmax with 2 N's. You get this podcast discussion right in your favorite podcast app, right in your phone, everybody. It's very convenient. You can help support independent games media at the same time. So if you enjoy this series, you enjoy the grand finale, you want to help support the Game Club format because not many other outlets are doing it, damn it, then you can go to patreon.com/minmax with 2 N's. Unlock that podcast version. We greatly appreciate it. Just like we greatly appreciate everybody who submitted a comment along the way. Hundreds and hundreds of comments submitted over there on Patreon. We greatly appreciate it. But for the final third, there can only be one most common comment. Something that people wanted to talk about more than anything else when it comes to the final third of Resident Evil 4. Jacob Geller is our guest of honor. What do you think that is?
The jet ski.
People said, where are these sci-fi objects from? How can I get one of these badass things? Okay,
Actually,
jet ski.
I'll look it up, but the trophy for like getting through that section without damage calls it something weird. It does not call it a jet ski. I'm gonna see if I can find it real quick.
Is it like snow machine, like they call it in Alaska?
No. When you got on it, they called it a water scooter.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Yeah.
Weird.
Which is cute.
Okay, it's not that. Jeffem, what do you think it is?
Is it that stupid wrench that was inside that monster?
Man, I'd be writing in all day about that wrench, but it's not the wrench. Sarah, what do you think?
Why do the regenerators have such fat asses?
It was a lot of just kind of, crude drawings of the regenerators in pornographic situations submitted.
So when they wiggle on the ground, it's extra sexy.
Please. No, I think most common comment, no.
That's cool. I didn't want to offer.
I thought yours was the jet ski.
No, that was Jacob's. Don't give me that. It wouldn't have brought up the jet ski. It's not even called the jet ski.
What do you think it is, Cal?
I think everyone's upset as they should be that there's no giant Ramon statue, a Raymond statue.
Isn't there?
Oh.
No, that's not big enough.
I agree.
Okay, all right. It's not exactly the same.
Truly, like,
okay.
I mean, we can get into it, but truly the one thing I am really disappointed was not in the remake. Like, honestly, like every other change I'm like generally happy with and think they made the right call, but that not being in there feels like a mistake.
I love it. This is why, I'm not picking on you, Kyle, but all gamers are so spoiled because it's like, where's my giant boy statue? Come on.
Reasonable.
Close, Kyle. Kyle's the closest, so therefore he wins. It was people writing in about the Salazar boss fight. A lot of people had thoughts on the Salazar boss fight. Regenerators are probably second. Close second, I'd say, overall for all these comments submitted on Patreon. Jeffem. Final third of this game.
And real quick, sorry, just to triple confirm, it is water scooter. That is what the game officially calls it, a water scooter.
That's so weird. I don't understand what they're doing. By the way, Jacob Geller, thank you for calling out the stopping points for this, for the deepest dive. I appreciate you.
Oh, yeah. That was fun.
I do think that'd be fun. I'd be really into that nerdy thing of trying to divide this thing up. But Jeffem, as somebody who had never played this game before, final third, hot takes. What do you think?
It was terrible.
Terrible.
And everyone who worked on it should be ashamed of themselves. Everyone who enjoyed playing it should be ashamed.
Jesus
and you shouldn't be allowed to play games anymore.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
All right.
That's the social media clip.
I know.
Right
It's great. It's still super fun. I feel like in this section, the word that I wrote in my notes the most was just solid. Like there were a lot of sequences where I feel like they're not surprising me as much, but there's nothing I can complain about gameplay wise, except I guess the giant boy statue being missing. But.
Yeah, it's a subpar game because of that. That's interesting. Yeah, that was my takeaway as well. I love the hell out of it. I think I was worried about it because I played this game back in 2005, and I really didn't remember the island. I know in the basically 20 years since, everyone's always like, Resident Evil 4 gets a little long in the island section. Maybe they can trim up the island when they're talking about the remake, and I just had to nod along and pretend that I agreed. But always in the back of my mind, I'm like, is it telling that I have zero memories of the island? Like, I remember there were generators, of course, but outside of that, like, a lot of this stuff completely blew by me. So I was kind of bracing for impact of like, everyone's saying the island kind of drags. I don't know. I had a blast with this section. Like, it didn't drag for me personally. Maybe it was just I was pacing it out at the right level, but I frickin' loved it. Jacob, we should probably set this table a little bit more. Like, how many times have you been through this game now?
5, I think.
Jesus.
I did a playthrough on PlayStation, and then on PC, I did a normal one, and then I've been kind of like speed running it because a lot of the unlockables are tied to like doing it in under a certain amount of time on a certain difficulty level.
Right.
And so I've like played it. You can beat it in 3.5 hours on easy. Like I did that in basically one sitting. And then on normal, you can do it in like 4.5 hours. And also there's some sequence breaks in this section that I'm excited to talk about because they're like intentional. They're little like tricks that you can do. But yeah, I'm just playing through this like it is my job.
Yeah, Carter H wrote in over on Patreon saying the speedrunning tactics are already out of control on this game, and I love it. People are already doing professional S+ runs in under 2 hours. I haven't tried speedrunning myself yet, but it's really good fun to watch it on YouTube. Yeah, I can't wait. It's not going to be in Summer Games Done Quick. I guess it missed the cutoff and stuff. So, but I'm sure by next year or by the next Done Quick thing, they're going to be leaning into that thing in a big way. Jot wrote in and they say, this is my first foray into Resident Evil 4, having only ever played the modern games. Overall, I really dug it, but I was kind of disappointed about the back third. I felt like the island was the weakest part of the game, but the strength of the village and castle more than made up for it. Given that most of the modern Resident Evils boast a strong first half and a weak second half, like 2, 3, 7, and 8, just a weak back third is better than I expected. Man, I don't know. I don't understand this weak part. Kyle, I mean, how'd you experience it?
I think I would agree with them, but that's not to say that like I wasn't having a good time. But I think if you sort of, slice it into the 3 sections, I think the one I enjoyed the least was the third section because it was just straight action, right? It was just straight combat, where I do like the puzzle solving and the picking up keys and unlocking doors and exploring a little bit, where this was like just run and gun. And I think that was accentuated by Mike showing up with the helicopter, which was like something I like truly forgot about and was thrilled like when it happened. I was like, oh, this is so satisfying that Mike's over here. Because you see like 8 guys coming up and you're like, oh, okay, here we go. I'm kind of running low on ammo. And then the bullets come in from behind you. It's very cool.
It's unbelievable. Is it just every Resident Evil has to end with like an industrial section, Sarah? Is that just the way of the world? There's no way around it?
I don't know. I always get hung up with the lab.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't mind, like, the beginning of the island, but once we hit, like, the decrepit lab, that's when you start to lose me in these Resident Evil games. Like, once you do, like, lab, and then there's always, like, a sewer at the end that you're kind of trudging through. Yeah, it does kind of lose me a little bit, especially when you're coming from the castle, too.
Yeah.
Like, it does feel kind of like a dip in sort of, like, ambiance. For sure.
Yeah, there are still sections, though. I hear you with the lab. Like, the Umbrella Lab, I love that you can inspect so many things around that. Like, it lets you kind of dive into the nerdy lore and just pick up objects and stuff. That was a fun thing to kind of rummage through. But then also, like, again, just the environment art in this remake, I think, is so incredible. And there's so many sections where, yeah, it's not as visually compelling, even as the castle, I get it. But if you're making just kind of like a laboratory, it's about as cool looking as it can be. Just so much junk piled on the sides.
I was
so
like,
it
was dirty and dark.
it.
Most, like, the lights were off for like 80% of it.
No, like my doctor's office.
But it looked great.
It does. Like, just the piles of junk. It's almost Last of Us-esque in a way. Like, I think it just looks incredible for like, again, you task an environment artist to be like, I don't know, put a bunch of junk in a hospital lab setting. It's like, it's just perfect, especially during the quieter moments when you're creeping around, like right before the regenerators come out. Like that whole section is just like environment art dream.
I really like just in like the very first approach when you're kind of walking up to the first combat encounter, like looking out and almost up, and it just looks like an evil oil refinery, I guess. It's like everything is so tall and there are so many lights and it's dark.
It looks like Final Fantasy VII in a way.
Yeah. It looks like you're in Midgard.
Like,
That's
hello?
why I liked it so much.
Totally makes sense.
Oh, no, that actually makes sense now.
Yeah.
There's just junk everywhere.
Right, and they build
Junk
a pizza
dealer
plate
right
on
here
top of
loves
that.
And there is a man whose arm is a Gatling gun.
Wait a minute. It's funny you say that, actually. There's some bold hero wrote in, Mike Tucker, saying, am I crazy? Or is Resident Evil 4 Remake the best Metal Gear Solid game since 3? The new stealth mechanics and improved combat reminded me so much of Snake's Adventures at some points. Plus that knife fight with Krause, that's classic Metal Gear Solid cheese. I would love to see the Resident Evil team tackle a Metal Gear entry someday. Yeah, Sarah, were you also thinking Metal Gear? Because it does kind of feel Metal Gear in this final chunk.
Krause fight especially.
Yes.
Too, like the fact that he's just evil for like, it feels like in this game he's just evil for the sake of being like, he's just like a baddie, but he's like weirdly obsessed with you and a baddie.
Right.
There's like some weird like Freudian like under psychology going on here that feels very Metal Gear.
Yeah, totally.
And they have a slap fight.
Yeah.
It
I
is.
guess that was in the
fight.
previous section.
It was.
I wasn't here. I need to talk about the slap fight.
Hey, man,
For this part, he just like sets up a bunch of Home Alone traps for you to like.
It's so embarrassing, honestly.
I love it.
Dude, I can see every one of these. This game has like the brightest laser pointer lights of like any game I've ever played in my life. It's crazy.
Also, yeah, pro tip for anybody planting bombs with a laser, don't put the laser sight on it. Am I right, fellas? Anyways, we should probably work through this thing chronologically. So chapter 12, this clock tower. Right after Luisa's death, picks up right from there, and then Leon's screaming to the heavens, "You won't get away with this, Krauser," just to try and remind you as much as possible. Remember, you should acknowledge this Krauser fella and hate him because he's the one who technically killed our dear boy Luis. Sean Mills says, Chapter 12 starts with Ada telling you to hurry to the clock tower before Ashley gets turned. So, of course, I started the chapter by going to the throne room instead to complete the side quest to throw any egg at Salazar's portrait. I love how the game puts new enemies in old locations that you revisit, and there's a fun interaction with the throne where Leon will sit in the most ridiculous pose with a prompt that says, "There's no time for resting."
Which, wholesale from the original? Or
Yeah.
But I mean, in terms of what he says... I mean, I certainly remember sitting in that throne, but I don't remember if he says no time.
It's
for
something.
resting.
I mean, it's definitely like I've got to get going or something.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that was delightful. I really shot myself in the foot though by running through that section, and then I don't know what was bubbling up inside of me, but I'm like, can I get an egg just by shooting this chicken? Is that how you do it? So I shot one of the chickens, and I guess it was like the brown chicken, which spits out more eggs or something like that. So then when I realized
it was a rooster.
Oh, is that what the problem was?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that would be your issue. How long did you stay there waiting for the rooster to lay an egg?
It was a while. And just so you know, I did grow up raising chickens at my house for decades of my life. So I really should have known that. But like the Salazar portrait, it's like you just got to deface it. I'm like, all right, well, shotgun blast will take care of that. It's like, oh, no, that's not going to work. So then I just waited the rest of the time and like sat on the throne waiting for this egg to pop out. And eventually I had to just reload my save.
Waiting for a rooster to lay.
I didn't pull up the dinosaur's skirt. I guess it didn't strike me immediately as a rooster in there and whatnot.
So were you able to do it? Like,
No, I just had to like load my save and run back in there and actually just wait like a gentleman for those things to lay an egg before
I do wish more of the missions had been that weird. Of like, do this very specific thing in this place you don't expect. Where it was
there are a lot of rat killing.
Yeah, that's fine. Blue medallions and rats. I guess that's the main beat for those little missions and whatnot.
I wanted to shout out the Blue Medallion Taskmaster for just hating those things so much. They just were so angry about the blue medallions in every note.
Yeah,
they're like, this it's an eyesore. It's like, this is like I can't even see these things. Like, what are you talking about?
They should have like connected. They should have like hinted that Ada was the one planting them or something, just to have some tie back in for like, why are these all over the place? What is happening in this world? Randolph Sparks submits a comment over on Patreon saying, "I was over the moon when I saw the giant Salazar statue that breathes fire. The statue was one of my favorite parts of the original, and I'm so happy that I didn't decide it was too silly for the remake and cut it. I also love the giant rolling balls of death that were straight out of Sen's Fortress and Dark Souls." So seeing that they still had the statue, and even though he's breathing fire and doing all sorts of cool stuff, you want that sucker to walk, you want him to chase you want the full thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It could have even been a cutscene of just it.
Did you notice that the statue had a hat on, by the way?
Ooh, I didn't.
As do the bobbleheads. So like there needs to be. Did they just remove it at the last second? On the like, I need explanation.
I mean, the bobbleheads are just him from RE4 in the same way that the like briefcase trinkets are like the models from the original.
Right.
But the statue is really they should have had it there. Also, that was part of the embargo. Was do not talk about the statue.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
they knew people wouldn't buy it if it didn't chase them. No chase, no buy.
I get it. I mean,
be
you gotta
cool.
keep that. You gotta hide that mistake. You know.
PR 101, I guess. And then also, this is fun. What else was in that embargo? It was also like, don't talk about Wesker, right?
That was the big one highlighted in red, which of course I read, and then it was like, well, come on. Like, you mean the last thing that happens in the game that you're just telling me right now?
Right.
No, honestly, it was incredibly restrictive. It was kind of a bullshit embargo. There was so much that they said you could not talk about, but it was funny that they highlighted the statue specifically. Yeah,
I wonder. I mean, I was so delighted by having the flame throwing statue in this thing, and like it definitely got me running up. Like, okay, now I gotta time this. All right, it's still gonna annihilate me. Let's see. Kevin W. says, I loved the cutscene in this section where a zealot pulls a lever to dispense a giant spiked ball, instantly realizing I could kill them and use the lever myself. This moment felt similar to the moment in the castle when you can turn the cannon on the zealots, and later on the island when you take over the machine gun turrets to shred some ganados. Overall, taking over an enemy's powerful weapon is a great GameCube/PS2 era classic mechanic that I don't think I've seen used effectively enough in very many modern games. It's interesting.
It's very satisfying. Yeah.
It's unbelievable. It's just like, if the goal of game designers, and I guess you can debate this game to game and whatnot, is just to make the players feel good or feel something. It is just like the greatest epiphany when you realize like, oh my God. It feels like a game design freebie of like, have an obstacle, then at the end of it, let the player control that obstacle to just take out an absurd amount of ganados running up that ramp. It just feels amazing. Then like to run back down there to collect everything that they had on them and just realize like, I got to worry about that ball coming anymore because I've run this freaking castle now. This clock tower is mine, baby. Jeffem, how'd you find this section? Was it difficult for you, or did you manage to get through it there?
Not too difficult, no. But I did like the elevator ride up as well. Was another great, just like I said, just a solid sequence of different encounters on that. I did miss a treasure on that stupid elevator though.
Ooh, that's
that I
rough.
could not go back down for.
That's brutal.
And that, yeah.
Yeah, it is tough. Like, so correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like when they're jumping on the elevator, the secret is you shoot them in their mid-air and then they'll like drop and they won't quite get on. Is that the best way to go about it?
You can shoot them before they get there. There's some red barrels kind of on the side. But like if they get on, you just kick them off. You just punt them right off the elevator.
It's fun.
There is also there's a red barrel in the back of the Salazar statue's head, which stops it from breathing fire, which is one of those things where it's like you get through, or I got through, and then I saw that, and I was like, well, that would have been helpful.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I think I blew that up before I even saw that it was breathing fire.
Smart. Jeez. Paul writes in and says, riding the lift up to the top was intense, but by this point I had enough weapon upgrades that it felt well balanced. Then Reed says, the auto save point before getting on the elevator in the clock tower is perfectly positioned. I abused it before finally getting the capacity compliance achievement, which is the lift not stopping due to enemies boarding. I answered any goat skull guy prayers with the stingray. I never bought the stingray. Is it the way to go? It's Sarah, it's cool.
It is really good for the island section.
Okay. Because it's just a great rifle.
Yeah, and there's a lot of, you can like hit a lot of people from really far away with it. You can kind of take people out before you even get there.
That's smart.
Yeah, I mean, or for hitting the regenerator weak points.
Mm-hmm.
It does sound nice. I was just all in on that submachine gun. Also, never got a Magnum. I'm not a big Magnum guy.
I didn't either.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Oh, okay. This is a good crowd. All right. That's exactly what I was hoping to be. All right, Jacob, are we okay?
I mean, I get the Magnums. I think they're fun. You know, you just save them for the boss fight.
Smart. But Reed says, the best method I found for preventing hop-ons was to explode as many cultists as possible with pistol rounds to red barrels. The striker loaded with 18 shotgun shells worked great for those who approach ledges and even mid-air jumpers. Ladder climbers seem more vulnerable than standing cultists. Happy slow riding, says Reed. Happy slow riding to you, Reed. Joshin1206 says, I'm catching this Deepest Dive series during my second playthrough on professional difficulty, and the fight up the clock tower is one of the toughest parts. On professional, you can only save at typewriters with no checkpoints in between. I finally made it up the clock tower after who knows how many tries. I let my guard down and ran over the rickety boards, eager to get to the next typewriter. I forgot you're supposed to walk over them, so the next thing I know, Leon falls through, plummeting to his death and forcing me to start at the very bottom of the clock tower again. Oof, says Joshin.
Are those the only ones you have to walk over, like in the entire game?
Yes.
I think so.
It's
Because
really
I think
weird.
that, it makes sense that it pretty much gets everyone their first time.
Yeah, it's a real From Software type move. It just feels a little bit out of nowhere to the point it's like, wait, did the enemies blow something up? Like, oh no, it was just running? Okay, got it. Hurley13 Tank writes in to say, so after playing through a few times, the big standard of this game is how many times Leon falls through a wooden floor, Forget zombie issues. Leon should be afraid of hardwood floors. They say when you climb the tower...
Like most Resident Evil games, though, right?
I guess so.
You're always falling, like in 8, too, especially, you fall through a lot of floors.
It's just the easiest jump scare is just like, what if at any moment you could just completely drop? Yeah. Mm-hmm. But Hurley says, when you climb the tower in the village...
What is a jump but a fall? I don't know. I'll revisit that one.
No, that's good. Do you want us to make some merch with that on a shirt or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Proceeds go to me.
Okay, great. Climb the tower in the village, only one way down through the floor, says Hurley 13 Tank. On your way to get the gas for the boat, just a few rotten boards between you and the Las Plagas swamp, so I guess you can fall through there. Wandering through the castle dungeons, snap, crackle, and pop the floor, and now you're fighting Hellraiser's Wolverine. Run too fast in the clock tower, and then they say not technically Leon falling through, but an armored cave troll burst through a wooden floor in an attempt to kill Leon as well, so...
Also, there's that scene where Ashley gets stuck on the wooden bridge, and you have to pull her out.
Right. Yeah, just wood is bad news. Just don't put it in your town. Starkiller says, I absolutely love that Leon is a shoot-first character by this point in the game. He's just so over everyone's BS that he immediately starts blasting Little Lord Salazar right in his dumb head. And then later does the same for Sadler, too.
Because I was disappointed that they did not have... There's a thing where Leon, like, throws his knife through Salazar's hand in the original, and they didn't have but, like, it was all replaced by him just shooting him in the face.
So good.
Just like, and seeing his little body just like fall off the thing was like truly peak comedy.
I know, like it was just
also, later him and Ada open fire on Sadler, and it's like, guys, like this is not gonna work.
But why not? Why not take the shot, shoot him in the damn eye?
Because you gotta save your bullets. We're playing a Resident Evil game.
Yeah, come on.
It is satisfying though, because that's always the thing that you think of when you're playing games or watching movies. It's like just shoot him in the face, and the fact that it doesn't work, it's like, all right, well at least we tried that avenue.
Yeah, and there was enough time in this moment too where it's Krause with Ashley as they're like leaving. And in my mind, I was screaming, just take the shot, Leon, take the shot. Like Krauser's right there. Ashley's right there. And so then he made up for it by just blasting Salazar away. It's like, okay, I just want you to try, buddy. Like when I give you control in the cutscene, you at least have to try. That's the pact we need to make with each other.
When I let you take control of my game.
But I really like later on, I think it's when you're on the island where Krauser's like carrying Ashley, but he's carrying her like a suitcase.
Yeah.
It's just like the weirdest way to carry somebody. But I guess he's big and strong.
Yeah.
Amos Dragon writes in and says, to me, Salazar is the highlight of boss fights in the game. I love how they updated the fight by making him more mobile and adding a plethora of puke-based projectile attacks. It's much more fun and interactive than the wall he was in the original game. Alas, he still has that one-shot attack, but at least it's much easier to interrupt and use the time for really good damage. I'd have so much more to say about the fight and the banter that goes on during it, but as Leon says to Salazar, you talk too much. I do like that. Or is this where he has that line where he's like, I'm not gonna be part of your crappy script, Salazar? Some dopey line like that.
A lot of these boss fights, like, they take the conversation that you would have had in the cutscene and put it in a boss fight.
Right.
Which I appreciate, but like, it's in one ear and out the other, especially during that Salazar fight, because he's like flying all over the place. And I'm like, I think there's like really good writing happening here. Unfortunately, I am missing most of it because I am screaming while you vomit on me. And I wish they would stop doing that. Like, please stop putting great conversations when I'm supposed to be doing something else.
Yeah. I definitely hear you, because it's a thing of like, I didn't have the subtitles on just so I could get better stills and stuff for using for tweets and all that fun stuff. And so like not having the subtitles on particularly on this part, it's like, God, they're talking so much and I can barely hear it. But I mean, seems like a primo relationship is these two weirdos talking to each other in the middle of the fight.
It's, the dialogue is not like great, but what is funny is just like Salazar starts taunting and then is just getting more like mad through it, at the end.
At one point he says stop moving, and I'm like, no, you stop moving.
Right.
You're the one that can like fly around.
Become a wall again or whatever the hell, man. Kyle, what'd you think about this new take on this fight?
I like it. It made me think of Audrey 2 from Little Shop of Horrors.
The best.
But the original, it's funny. The last couple times I've played it, the original Salazar fight, you just use a rocket launcher. It's like the strategy is you just take him out in one shot, and that's fun. So it was weird going into this and be like, oh, I actually got to fight this guy. I haven't fought him in quite a while.
Yeah. My name is Dan wrote in and said, did anyone end up killing Salazar with the golden egg?
You throw it in his mouth or something, right?
So it's one golden egg will do like 70% damage.
What?
And then two will just outright kill him. And there are 2 golden eggs in the game. And so like on my playthroughs now, unless I want to give it to, the merchant to get the spinals, you just chuck it at him once, he opens his mouth, you chuck it at him again, dead. And it takes like 5 seconds.
Hey, could you say that phrase again, but in a way that's child appropriate, since Jeffem's child is running around in the background?
Yeah, he
I love
figured
that.
out how to open the
last
door.
week you said my child figured out how to open sliding doors, and this week I got to witness it myself.
That's right.
So adorable.
Yeah. So I did the egg technique as well, but I feel like I did the classic way, which is I threw the gold egg at him and I hit him with that, and then I had one normal egg. And I ate it instead of equipping it.
No!
And then I just had to use a shotgun the rest of the time.
Take this, Salazar.
Yeah, I mean, people were scaring at me on Twitch, like, oh, didn't you know there was a golden egg you could use to throw with that painting in that room? Like, I didn't want to waste the golden egg. I wanted to save that, and I sold it. I didn't throw it.
Oh.
Yeah, I guess I was just...
Think of, it was so worth it,
10,000 coins.
Yeah.
But, I got to keep, all of my bullets, all of my healing items. It was... Probably the items that I didn't waste on the boss fight was probably worth more than the golden egg.
I think you're totally right, yeah. By the way, it's such a smart little touch, but mentally it totally works. Like getting the big guy's eyeball or the lip rouge from Salazar after this fight as an item, and then getting to sell that on your own later, it feels like so much... It feels like a bigger victory than if you just beat the boss and said, I don't know, here's 10,000 pesetas, here you go, automatically. It feels like you're beating the system a little bit more somehow, which I think is kind of the magic of RE4.
I can't believe they're and here's his Rouge Vaseline for you. And you're like, great, this will sell for something.
Everyone's dying to have this.
Yeah, the merchant will give me more for this than for 3 emeralds.
It's got his little lip imprints in it. Look, they're chalky.
That's right. Wesley M, by the way, says, it's funny to me that there's often a chest with some treasure you can sell sitting about 10 feet away from the merchant. Did he put it there? Is the merchant canonically the most powerful being in Resident Evil 4? He has unlimited money, weapon upgrades, and rocket launchers. Plus, he cannot be killed by grenades in my testing. Leon's unable to even aim at him. His aura is so strong. That's right.
Well, there was one segment in here, too, where you're coming up on a door and a guy bursts through and he's on fire and runs right past you. And then the merchant is just standing right in. And it's like, was that guy just standing there waiting for you? The merchant's watching him burn while he's waiting. No, this is going to be good. Just wait for him to get to the door.
I had that exact situation. There's a point too where it's there's a gate. I'm trying to remember what it says. There's some sort of gate on the island. It's this bloody gate. And it's it's killing time or something obnoxious up top. And I was like, all right, this is it. Game face, everybody.
Oh, before the Krauser fight.
I think so.
Do you think he watched him set up, he watched Krauser set up all those booby traps for you? And he's
with blood.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, oh man, you're really going to show him.
Yeah. Whose side are you really on, merchant? Absolutely. But then it was I was in battle mindset and then walking through that blood gate, then just have him be like, hey, come on over here, fella. It scared the hell out of me. What are you doing? This is a tense environment. You're only supposed to be in the downtime fun stuff on the side, man.
You can't shoot him and you can't kill him with a grenade, but you can also throw an egg at the merchant and he will respond.
Really?
What are you doing?
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Am I misremembering? I feel like you could shoot him in the original.
Oh yeah, you could kill him in the original, but
and then
also
he wouldn't come back, right?
he would be at every other location, and so you would kind of wonder is this just clones? Is it one guy or is it?
I remember doing it once. It was one of those things where I was testing it. And I was like, surely you can't shoot him. And then I did, and I instantly felt terrible. I was like, I can't believe I did that. I had to reload my save.
I felt sorry for him in this game because he's talking about his back a lot. I'm like, what is? Oh, my back hurts so bad. It's what is this? I know.
Or is interrupting.
Well, yeah, he's got to lug his entire catalog to every single point that you go to.
I guess that's true. We should feel.
He has to outrun Leon, a trained secret agent.
I mean, that's his winkiest line, because he says, "Oh, my back, the years haven't been kind." And we're like, aha, I'm also 20 years older than when the first game came out.
My back sucks too, man. Kevin K says, I was leaving the last shooting gallery without doing anything because there was no new challenges. And the merchant comes on the comms and he says, whoa, where are you going? It took me ages to build this.
Aww.
That's fun. That's fun and cute. Don't Bash Ash. Okay, all right. Writes in and they say, the first time I felt like the controls of this game were a bit dated was during the Salazar boss fight. Not being able to sprint or dodge roll was so frustrating. Thankfully, the black goo did 0 damage with the body armor on, so it only took me like 10 tries to kill the boss. Those one-hit chomp kills were rough. He kept popping up behind me, and I kept hitting square, hoping to roll away. Leon can do a German suplex and a roundhouse kick, but he can't dodge roll? Come on.
I think that was the boss that gave me the most trouble. I think that's the one that killed me the most. If I think back on it.
I think I'm with you. I was down to it. It was absurd. I had like barely sliver of health. I was completely out of all ammo, all crafting materials. It was really like last shot, to the level of like, are they scamming this for me in some way? Because it just felt like the biggest miraculous victory to actually be able to beat this SOB, because he was rough. Frank says, man, the Salazar boss fight in the remake is not good. Obviously, there are ways to cheese it, but just doing the fight normally is obnoxious. Having a boss that can just jump around quickly in an arena isn't good design. I feel like there could have been a nice balance between the original game and giving it some modern updates. And then Chicken Harm also says, Salazar fight was really frustrating. Not a fan of boss fights that are not conducive to the overall game design. Leon is not agile and cannot react fast enough to dodge Salazar's vomit attack in a way that feels natural, making every failed attempt here more and more aggravating. I hear that. Yeah, Jacob, as somebody who's done this fight 16 times, where do you land on this?
Yeah, it is kind of, it's like, now I like it, but it is that weird kind of like learned behavior thing where it's like, I basically just spend the whole fight on like a stairway, you know? And so if he's like, if he's down, I go up, and if he's up, I go down. And it is like, it also, this game in general, I think asks way more of you in terms of just like aiming finesse than almost any other game I can think of, in terms of like how quickly and how high stakes the aiming is.
Right.
And this one is definitely, it's like, you know, when he's doing that one hit attack, he opens his mouth and then you can shoot him. And then if you do shoot him, then he'll stop. But it's like, that's a hard shot. And if you miss, you just die. So it is definitely kind of like, it's asking you to be way faster than basically any point in the rest of the game. That's
interesting. Yeah, Yara wrote in relating to that, saying, we finally got the last set in the shooting gallery a little bit later in this section here. 4C in particular was a real pain, giving you 4 weapons to quickly swap between while trying to kill all 100 pirates. This challenge put me through my paces, but after many retries, I was able to complete it. The range, while being just good old fun in its own right, also helped improve my shooting skill, and I was able to use these tools, like being able to quickly swap between targets and better track Sadler's eyes to shoot at the end of the game. Seeing that growth because of a side challenge was a highlight of the game for me. That's interesting. Yeah, so maybe if we're all just S-ranking every shooting gallery thing, we'd be able to get our guns ready to go for even something like the Salazar fight. Maybe, but
again, me and Sarah, mouse and keyboard feels like cheating compared to playing it on a controller.
Man, you say that, and my name is Dan also says that. They say, after finishing the game on PS5 and going to watch others play this on stream, I feel like playing with a mouse drastically changes the experience, so much that it may soften the intensity that the player is supposed to feel. This may vary based on an individual's skill, but I could see someone playing on mouse and keyboard making the regenerator section look like a cakewalk overall. Sarah, was it
I will say
baby
the
mode?
Puzzles, like the rotation puzzles where you have to take an object and rotate it, feel really bad on keyboard.
Interesting.
Because you have to use like Q, E, A, and D to kind of like rotate, and it just felt nasty. And also the key bindings are weird. It's like E to crouch.
Right.
Which I think is disgusting. So it's like, yeah, you have great aim, but the key bindings are just all kinds of like wonky.
Okay. I guess that makes sense. Ben Shively writes in and says, as a Resident Evil superfan, I'm no stranger to puzzles. However, these computer arrow spinning puzzles are not designed to be fun. They're made even harder when you play on hardcore/professional. On the other hand, puzzles like the Knight's Sword were designed for a child to figure out. I feel like Resident Evil lost its way with puzzle design after Resident Evil 0, which was the last one to have any semblance of a difficult but fair and interesting puzzle. Item spinning puzzles aren't fun. Regardless, Resident Evil 4 is Game of the Year. There's no doubt about it. Yeah, as somebody who hates puzzles, I mean, I don't think I was too burned out by anything in this game. Like, definitely those pipe rotating things. Like, all right, it wasn't that bad, I don't think. But the puzzles stand out.
There's like a strategy where you just have to work your way inward, kind of, right? Like,
okay.
It's not like the middle one's really going to affect the outside one, but it took me it wasn't until like the second one that I kind of figured out that system.
Right.
I do think they're right in that they're not fun. You know, they're just kind of unobtrusive. I like the night one because it makes me feel smart in the same way that I guess solving like a logic puzzle for a fifth grader would make me feel smart.
Yeah, I guess it's telling. Maybe not. Maybe puzzles aren't the most interesting thing to talk about, but like they really haven't come up much in this discussion of like, okay, remember this puzzle here and this puzzle here. Like, I think I like the puzzle with the cube and the different like inlets and in-grooves and stuff. And you have to rotate it. Like that makes me feel smart in an extremely doable kind of way. So like that was probably my favorite of the batch.
At least they took out the slide puzzle from the Ashley section. That's what they replaced it for with like the star goes in the star hole. And I was like, thank you. They also took out the puzzle in the beginning in the graveyard in the church where you find Ashley. You could get like, there was like a weird like twisty puzzle.
Yeah, whereas like do you want to rotate it 4 or 3? There was only one like that in the whole game, which was in the open world lake section with the hexagons. But even that is optional. So you just you just don't have to do it if you don't want to.
Oh, it is? Okay. The puzzles for me have always been just a matter of pace. You know, it's not that I like really, I do like puzzles. But it's really more of just a matter of being able to like catch your breath and focus on something that isn't staying alive for a few minutes. And so I always appreciate it for that reason.
That's what you got your inventory for.
It is an absurd way to set up a power generator, though.
Yeah.
Like, what kind of interface is that?
Yeah, maybe that's why we were thinking of Metal Gear as well, with all the like the key card, like changing one key card into another key card. That's very Metal Gear Solid 1. Honey Boy writes in, by the way, and says, "I wonder." So they're
Shia LaBeouf?
Is his name Honey Boy?
Is that his? Isn't that movie Honey Boy about his life? Sorry, you'll cut this in post, right?
Absolutely, Kyle. You have my word, dude. So Shia LaBeouf writes in and they say, I wonder when the Separate Ways DLC eventually releases. This is the Ada DLC, it seems like. It will include I wonder if it'll include some of the missing levels / puzzles that Leon dealt with in Resident Evil 4 Classic. Stuff like platforming sections when Leon had to avoid those swinging axes, the painting puzzle, the needle room, the machine gun turret that Sarah mentioned, the floating cage boss fight. I think that's an interesting idea of like everything that they remixed, if they put it back in and just say like, Ada had to experience that actually.
My prediction is not some of those puzzles, but I think the laser hallway and I think the U3 boss fight, which is the one in the floating cages. I think both those are going to be in the DLC.
That's smart.
Not the floating cages.
I really that was one of the parts that I was like bummed that it was not in the game, but it makes sense that it would go in the Ada part.
Bread writes in, congratulations to Bread for becoming self-aware, saying, almost every time I've played Resident Evil 4, I have used the rocket launcher to one-shot Salazar at the end of the castle, Kyle style. This remake was no different. I may not have gotten my free rocket.
I'm laughing because like I do not attribute that to me.
Like, no, that's Kyle.
As much as I would love to take credit for that, that is definitely not something I figured out.
100% his thing.
Kyle style.
I may not have gotten my free rocket launcher from the castle in this playthrough, but spending my frugally saved pesetas made taking out that weirdo in one hit even more satisfying. Walk into the boss room. You're nothing but an extra in my script. Kablam! Castle section over. I really love the deepest dive. Thanks to everyone for doing it and all the hard work with all these fun comments and observations. Thank you, Brad. Very sweet. Brian Paradise writes in and says, I did not like Chapter 12 at all. The Clock Tower section felt like it was designed to burn through your resources with clumps of enemies in tight spaces, and the lift section that has people literally dropping in to grab Leon from behind. The boss fight with Salazar did not feel well designed since there was no trick to it. If you didn't have explosives, you just had to unload bullets and wait for it to be over.
There was a trick. There was a golden egg.
That's the trick, baby. I love this game.
You shoot his body and he falls down and you can stab him. Like that's something. Trick.
That's something. The explosives thing. What's that?
I assume like grenades.
Okay, just chuck a bunch of grenades at him.
It sounds maybe like he did not, or this person did not have the strategy for this boss fight.
Maybe, but they say I love this
Also,
game
the
and the
lift
deepest
was
dive.
way worse than the original.
Yo, is
The
that
lift,
right?
they had like double, triple the amount of enemies. It was very stressful. This one felt a lot more like relaxed. Weirdly enough.
So I guess what we're trying to say, Brian, is back off. If you attack this game, you attack us, and you got to get through us first before you can get to the game. Thank you for enjoying the deepest dive, though. I like there was that little note about like Salazar's family and how they were working to try and prevent the release of Las Plagas, but then like it's just Ramon who sucked. like everyone's just like, yeah, we got a good family here, but this little kid is the worst.
There's always that one family member, that ends up in a cult.
That's right.
Especially when you're rich, and that's what Ramon is.
Yep, he learned to open doors at too young an age, and he just will not stop at this point. And then at the end of chapter 12, Krauser gets away in his little speedboat and goes out to sea to his beautiful island, never to be seen again. How was all your inventories? Like, I noticed, especially in this section, I had so many just resources large that was overflowing, and round jewels, like those two were just overflowing my inventory, and I felt like, where's everything else? Where's the gunpowder at? Are they trying to get me to just spend the spinels to get more gunpowder?
Well, that's not an infinite inventory item, right? Gunpowder with the spinels?
No, you can only buy them like twice.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I always saw it in there, but I think I might have bought one. That's about it. But how's everybody else's balance? Like, was everyone else in the same camp of like constant round jewels, but the other shaped ones?
Yeah, I couldn't find the squares.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I was also scared. I mean, I ended the game with so many round jewels because I was always scared to sell them individually.
Yeah. Same here. Yeah, absolutely.
I got the round jewels all from the bugs, right? Because they would drop blue sapphires.
Oh, yeah. You
And
get out of
then-
that bug room and you have like 40 rubies
You're
and
like rich
sapphires.
enough. But then I got like the crown, and all of a sudden it was really demanding on square gems all of a sudden.
Yeah. And the regenerators are just, they're throwing out those gems left and right, but it's like at a certain point I don't want to fight these guys anymore.
Did y'all get the maximum crown worth?
Yes.
I kind of had that fun
I think
little
I was
puzzle.
I was missing one color.
Yeah, same.
Ooh.
I was like, I'd rather just get some money for this now than hold out for it,
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. I don't know if I did the colors.
Is it like 108,000? Is the
I think it's 100, right? 100,000.
It's just
Why would you know that, Jeffem? Why would you know?
because I put them in and that's what it came out to.
Yeah!
But I don't know if that was
This guy's
I don't know if
crazy.
that was the top or
I think so.
like
I
the
mean,
maximum.
it's just like having all different colors, and I think there's only like one way that you can actually have them be 5 totally different colors, but it's like 2 times, and then you sell it and you get the achievement.
okay.
I did which Snake is saying in the comments. I did 3 reds and 2 yellows, and that was 108,000.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a ton for sure. Felt good.
It's I think the multiplier that it multiplies it by is smaller. But the yellow gems and red gems are worth more on their own.
Oh, weird. By the way, it's such a smart thing in this game to, in the menu, show you exactly how much those things are worth. Like, I feel like most games would say that for like, you got to go to the store to see how much you can sell these things for. But it's like, nope, this is worth this much. This is worth this much at this current time. It's so smart. Why not, Chapter 13. We're on the boat with our dear friend Ada, going to this island, having a little chit chat about Raccoon City. Like, this is the kind of stuff that I like.
There's a lot of like Leon Kennedy like trauma dumping on Ada in that moment. He's like, I don't think I'm who I am anymore, Ada. I've lost myself. And Ada's like, okay, first of all, this is why I didn't let you drive the boat. And he's like
kinda
pouting.
I don't care, dude.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's like, so the idea is what she says, like, she's like, you haven't changed. You just think you have. And she's like whispering, and that's like the most therapy you can get before she's shoving her butt in the camera again and then flying off.
I also
in her
think
little
she
zip line.
said, don't think too hard, handsome, which I believe is the best advice Leon Kennedy's ever received.
Okay, did I hear this correct? She says, don't think too hard, handsome. See you later. And then Leon says, story of my life. It's like, what? What?
I think he says story of my life because she's leaving him.
I see.
Which is also the replaced version of the line in the original where he says, women.
Women.
Cool.
Probably a good replacement.
Do you think, Jacob, what do you think?
What if he had just been like, Ada? Like,
This
specifically
one
person.
woman.
That would have made more sense because she does that a lot. She like helps do a little bit, and then she just like zoop away.
It's the ultimate Deus Ex Machina, Deus Ada Machina of her just constantly saving the day and then Spider-Manning away. So is the implication just Leon has like a crush because she's a hottie body, or is there anything more going on there? Or is it just like she's a hot lady who saves his ass over and over again in the end? What is it? What is the relationship?
I mean, they were both in Raccoon City, so maybe he's like, she understands what I've gone through better than most people, but she just like doesn't care, and he is traumatized apparently.
I guess so. Yeah, that makes sense. There is Sam L says, when Ashley asks Leon about Ada at the end, she does so with a slight tone of jealousy in her voice, which begs the question, are you team Ada or Ashley? Who is best for our boy Leon? Well, Ashley.
Neither. And
The one that's closer to his age.
Yeah, there's always
I thought that she was jealous because Ada goes off in a helicopter. Like everything's going explosion, explosion, explosion. And if I was Ashley, I'd be like, why did the helicopter just take off without us in it, Leon? I thought you were friends with her. Like,
It is
please
confusing.
explain.
I don't understand why he turns down that helicopter at the end.
Yeah, I don't understand either.
Well, okay, so it is that weird thing of like, this game is kind of slightly dipping its toe into like, it's a little flirty with Ada. It's standing outside the house that is flirtation with Ashley. It's like
They really pulled it back with Ashley in the second half. They really like put her in, like they kind of recharacterized her as like someone who looks up to Leon, and she kind of comes into her own in the second half, which I really appreciated.
right.
Well, I also like
find
this.
that-
I like the surgery scene a lot too, where Leon gets, as the player and Leon both are taken out of it from passing out, and you just know that Ashley saved you. I liked how that sequence sort of played out and looked, and how it characterized Ashley, especially compared to the original.
Ashley is very clearly flirting with Leon in the same way that like a child would flirt with their babysitter. And it's like, I think that's fine. And the fact that Leon doesn't flirt back is good, because like that's the part that it feels like would feel kind of inappropriate. But like, it's like, yeah, Ashley has a crush on Leon because he's a hot guy who's saving her. Like that, I don't think that's a problem.
Right. It's Lex and Alan Grant from Jurassic Park. It's classic one-way flirtation street, the way it should be.
Yeah, and like Sarah said, I did like how that kind of evolved towards the end. And there was one point where they were talking, and she says something like, "So we're a team now, right?" And he says something like, "Oh, if you keep this up, I'm going to be out of a job or something." Just like kind of acknowledging that, like, yeah, you've been doing great this entire time. It would have been so easy for Leon to just be like, just stick to the task and do what I tell you or whatever. But you know, he kind of feeds her own self-confidence in that moment, which was
she was
nice.
really good at turning that wheel. She turned that wheel with a lot.
And she said so. She was like, "I'm actually really good at this." And I said,
You might not
"You
know this
are."
about me, but I'm quite good at this.
And operating a wrecking ball. Pretty good at that too.
Yeah. Well, she's like, I know how to drive a car. I was like, yeah, I wouldn't know how to
I'm
operate
mad
a
that they
wrecking
took
ball.
out the car part.
The car part?
Yeah, from the original
What
game.
was it?
That was cooler.
With the big, like, it's like a snowplow that
It
she
was cooler
drives.
than the wrecking ball.
Oh, okay. Stephen S. writes in and they say, I don't quite get all the hate that Chapter 13 gets. It's very action film oriented, but I'm okay with that. And seeing regenerators do the worm as a form of attack after you take their legs out will never not be hilarious. But yeah, Chapter 13, so you get to the island. This is when you really realize, like, oh my God, the Ganados have just gone full military gear. They're just like doing drills out there. It's bizarre.
They all look like Rogue Trooper. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
No.
It's like this comic book that was also a video game about this. I mean, if you can imagine, like, just what the soldiers look like. They're like blue skin with like a safety helmet on and no shirt. And it's like they all looked like this comic book character. It's weird.
I think you calling helmets in wars safety helmets. I don't know. What are they called? Just helmets, period? Is there a special word for those?
War hat.
War hats, I guess, yeah. The final third of the game, the whole island, it's just basically like the last chunk of 28 Days Later, right? Jacob Geller is a big blank check fan. It's just, you know, with different
I don't think
tones.
you remember what happens in the last third of that.
different themes. Jeff, were you surprised by having the militarized Ganado and all that stuff in this section?
Yeah, it was. It felt like a good next step, and also kind of cute that they're trying. You know, like some of the guys, they have like the big welding mask on. He's like, I know you want to shoot my big head, so I'm gonna wear this on my head instead.
And is the implication that the Ganados are just as smart as they've always been? Does the virus like bring them down a couple notches, or are they just 100% fully functioning human beings?
It said in one of those books that like the originals couldn't really act on their own accord. They can only be given and they can only act on simple tasks, but like there are higher level ones that are still able to think a little bit for themselves.
Okay. Gotcha.
I mean, that's the whole thing with Ashley, right? Is they were trying to turn her into one that could be smart. Right.
Okay. Very Gooster writes in and says that 2005 Resident Evil 4 is one of my favorite games of all time, but nostalgia can't hide what a chore the island was. A step down from the haunted house ride that was the castle. The remake, better paced with modernized gameplay, did a much better job of increasing the tension from the get-go, even knowing the regenerators are lurking around the corner. The game further played with my expectations because as I was doing the bad power connection puzzles, I thought I was getting that thermal scope right away, but instead it was that LE5 SMG, which I sold off. Not the best chapter, but definitely a step up from the original overall.
Yeah. I like how it's only really a step up because they took so much out from the original. Like the island section used to be a lot longer, and they really did just kind of like speed it up a little bit.
Is that right? Okay, so that's why it didn't feel as grating as it was for folks back in the day?
They added some... I think it's probably about the same length, but they added parts that are more fun. It was a lot of just kind of like running through gray rooms. This is the chapter with, is this also the one with the 4 regenerators and test tubes, or is that the next chapter?
Well, yeah, I think it is in this chapter. I think so.
It was this one.
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, maybe we can just talk about the regenerators as a whole, but like I love that test tube room.
Yeah, well, this is the tester room that you go back to for that special request, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I think that's in the next chapter. I could not do that. I tried it a couple times. I'm like, I am out of ammo. I cannot kite these guys around in the way that I think I need to.
You didn't have a rifle.
A rifle, you say? But I had.
But even with the rifle, I was able to complete that.
Yeah.
Request, but it was like the one time maybe in the whole game that I was like, I am truly completely out of ammo. I have literally thrown everything I can at this person, and then I died, and then I had to buy all the stuff from the merchant that he had for sale, because you could buy like 3 gunpowders, right, or whatever the materials, like whatever he sold. That was the point that I finally bought it all. Yeah, and I was able to take him out, but it was tough. It was hard.
Yeah, Joe Dean writes in and says, I got really frustrated in the specimen storage where you face 3 regenerators, 2 of which are Iron Maidens. I didn't have a lot of rifle or submachine gun ammo, so I kept dying, and the game wasn't providing any in the lead up to or inside that section. Eventually, I found resources large inside a cabinet, which gave me a little wiggle room to miss shots, but this is the one time I felt like the game wasn't providing for my needs. Absolutely. Jeff, I mean, first time seeing regenerators in your life. Congratulations. How'd that go?
It didn't go well.
Oh,
but I was streaming that chapter, and so I wasted a bunch of ammo until someone said, "Just wait, you'll have a way to deal with them later."
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, this was also the first segment where I felt like there were some legitimately creepy areas that you were going to as well.
Yeah.
With the places where you're turning off the power in one section compared to the next section that you're going to, some creepy atmosphere that kind of had me a little like, I don't want to go back to that place anymore.
Yeah, and a lot of it, like, this is what I remember, is being scared of the regenerators. It was definitely the scariest part when I was a kid playing it. And it's like, mainly it was the sound. Like, the sound they made stuck with me all those years. And yeah, Spencer Martin wrote in about it saying, the regenerators sound the exact same as they do in the original Resident Evil 4, and it is perfect/awful. That stupid, wheezy, congested breathing sends absolute chills down my spine every time. Would we all like to do a 5-person regenerator performance? Okay.
I gotta be honest. The sound didn't really.
Well, you play along, Kyle. You play along. It
didn't creep into my brain. Like
okay, here we go. And conductor ready. Baton up. Full tar here. And that was Jacob Geller and I performing the regenerators while
Did I
everyone
just
else.
not get close enough to them or something?
Do you
I
not
didn't hear
remember?
anything
What?
this time.
You've played this game how many times? The original?
A number of times. I don't know.
It is the most iconic sound. They're so
Weird.
loud.
Yeah, I don't know.
Must
I guess
have
I'm
been
just too busy
screaming over it.
blasting it away with a machine gun.
You monster. Also, I don't think this was in the original, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like every time you're in a section with the regenerators' music also is like structured like they're breathing. So the music is also just like this quiet ambient, like so it's just kicking in just this gross way. But I didn't hear them do it too much outside of that first time, but that still freaks me out. Yeah, when you're going through that lab and it's so tense and it's just anytime in a Resident Evil game where it's like, it has been quiet for way too long. And then you start seeing those body bags. It's like, okay, I'm so screwed here.
They're just so much floppier than I feel like they were in the original. Like, I was scared of them, and then I saw them from behind, and I saw them move, and I was like, these are just like, I kept calling them like flippy floppy dolphin men. And like, they kind of look like Baymax from like Big Hero 6 too, in a way. They kind of move like, I don't know. Like, after I saw the backside, I was like, I'm a little less scared than I used to be.
Yeah, they kind of just look like frumpy grimace.
And they kind of
like,
just stand there too. Like, they just walk in and you're like, it feels like you just walked into like the men's own center or something, like the men's bathroom at the gym or something, and everyone's just naked. You're like, oh, I'm sorry, were you using this?
Did you guys also run into the one, it's after Mike the helicopter pilot dies. It's like right near that section where the regenerator in the hallway, like you take out 2 of its internal organs or whatever, and it runs away.
Oh, really?
Like it like scurries away, like I'm scared, and it's like I thought it was just like a coincidence, but I actually ended up going through that section again later. I had to like reload a save and go back through, and it did it again. So I was like, I guess it's supposed to do this, but I guess you guys didn't.
Was he covering his stupid little butt as he ran away?
Yeah, and he
Was
was
it
saying,
the first time you saw the body
"Owie."
bags? Was it like the first body bag section?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't notice that because I was also running away at the same time. But that was like the first time they introduced the fact that their like heads explode too.
Right,
The Iron
they
Maiden
become
thing.
The Iron Maiden.
So I wonder
Because
if like that was it.
It's a change from the original where previously there were just 2 different enemy types. Like one was the normal regenerator, and then there was a different one that was the Iron Maiden.
Okay.
And now it's like it becomes it, you know, it kind of comes back, and it has that head weak spot that is for some reason so
Why
hard
is it so hard to
hit.
shoot?
Yeah, what is
It's
going
like
on?
even though I've been hitting
Way
heads
harder.
the whole game,
What the, by the way, are they doing any little fudging of the numbers at all? Because I feel like I'm looking through my submachine gun, I'm seeing where their stupid Plaga's organs are or whatever, I'm shooting those out. But then if I'm out of submachine gun ammo, then I'm like, all right, well, I remember where the organ is, so I'm going to keep shooting it with like my pistol or whatever. And I feel like the pistol is so much less effective. And it's like, is it really just the aiming? Because I feel like I know the spot I need to hit, but I feel like they go down so fast when I have machine gun ammo.
I think you do. I think it is the scope. Like
Okay.
I think that it's like the weak points basically don't exist if you're
That's
not
what I'm trying to
doing
figure
the
out.
scope.
Okay, I think you can still blast your way to them, but it must be just tougher to get through that thick hide of theirs.
I mean, because otherwise you can just shotgun them to oblivion, right? In theory,
Right.
if it
Yeah.
worked really that way. But
Yeah.
you know.
I really like the room where there are the 4. There's the one that has the wrench in it, and they're all just like in tubes, because what they do is they start bringing guys in with dynamite, and if you like shoot the dynamite in the wrong place, then it just lets them all out of the tubes, and so you have to like
God.
like, you know, be careful and watch like who's got an explosive and try to shoot it before it gets there. But you can also, like, if you want to kill them all, when they're in the tube, you can kind of like walk around and try and get the perfect angle so you can get like multiple of the parasites in one shot, which
that's
is really
cool.
satisfying.
That sounds great for sure.
Yeah, I think I only fought 2 in there ultimately, and the second one got out because I shot the glass.
Right.
And it was both. I was like, oh, son of a bitch. But then I was like, well, but at the same time, that was cool. Like, I like that it was my mistake that made this harder for me.
Yeah, they got their long dulcimer arms and all that stuff. That's all well and good, but like it is a smart idea of like they are almost more dangerous when they're on the ground compared to every other enemy where it's like, all right, this is the part where I go up and knife them. Like when they're down, then they're going to do their weird dolphin flop over to you and annihilate you.
I've never seen that.
The dolphin flop?
No.
What?
Oh, it's horrifying. They they do the worm on the ground.
That's crazy. I know that in the original you had to hit them, like if there was a thing on the back, you had to hit them from behind. So it made it really hard to take them out, because in this one you can take them out all from the front wherever you're looking at them. But in the old game, you literally had to figure out a way to get behind them to kill them if it was on their back, and it was really scary.
Right. Rusty writes down and says, as a newcomer to the series, I can say I laughed in horror when I saw the Regenerator for the first time. I was shocked by its grotesque, chunky, awkward form with its big, goofy, toothy smile. Hey, come on, Rusty. There's some Regenerators probably listening to this. Be nice. All the animations were top-notch, including the stretchy arm attacks and the way his torso would fish flop over to me after I'd blown him up. Getting the bioscope was a cherry on top, as it let me point at one of the Regenerators in the vat and see that he ate an entire damn wrench. Overall, a great example of the balance of goofiness and horror the game gets so right. Yeah, that was the first time where I actually, in this game, had to Google, what am I supposed to do? I need a wrench, but I have no idea where this could possibly be. But it's like, oh no, it turns out a Regenerator swallowed it.
It says it in a file.
Oh, is that
there's
right?
A note where it's it ate it, but it doesn't, once you read that once, it kind of goes into your, encyclopedia of notes, and it's hard to find again.
Right. Okay, that makes more sense then. Let's see. Ryan B says, I have always hated the Regenerators. Too creepy. I loved how the final interaction with them went. After Mike's chopper goes down, you have to creep through a room with body bags hanging down. A couple of them wiggle, and you can see the Regenerators inside with the bioscope. I was on edge expecting them to pop out the whole time, but they never did. They used expectation well in this scene as well throughout the game, especially for those who know the original well. Adam Thompson says, this is one of my first horror games, and I found it more stressful than scary for the most part. That was until the Regenerators showed up. The absolute panic I felt as I blew its legs off with a shotgun, only to find it moves faster without its legs, was unmatched. The way they slither around made my skin crawl, and I loved every minute of it. And then Harrison Holt McHale says, hearing people talk about Resident Evil 4 over the years, I was really looking forward to the Regenerators. The Hunters in Resident Evil 3 were consistently threatening but fun to tackle, so my expectations were high. However, I can't help but find the Regenerators to be a pushover. The biosensor allows everyone to be clinically disposed of with a rifle, even the strong one, the extra strong one. It was introduced far too early, if at all. The night in the castle was way more challenging. That could be. Maybe they're too hyped up and stuff, but still, it's cool that they're introducing something so unique so late in the game of here's just a whole new type of weirdo. Have at it,
I remember there being fewer in the original, but maybe just my memory's fuzzy.
I think there are. I mean, there certainly isn't a room with 4 of them. There's that scene where Ashley has to hold the crank for the bridge for you. Really and then when you're away from her, there's one that crawls out of the garbage. If you don't kill it and just run across the bridge, Ashley will drop it in the sewer.
I was so mad about that.
Yep. I was too. Ken H wrote about it and how fun it was. And then she delivers a classic one-liner to Leon where she says, "How do you like this?" as she does it. And in fact, I did not like that, Ashley, because I was out of ammo at that point, except for my beautiful little bolt gun. And I had shot every bolt into that Regenerator. And then when I ran back across, she dropped it. I'm like, that wasn't my entire stock load of ammo, Ashley. What have you done? So I made her go down there and get it. We had a good relationship.
She also dropped me one time as well.
Is that right?
Because I tried to run back, and I'm just going to get back to that platform before the Ganados grab her. But he grabbed her right when I was on the bridge.
Oh no!
And I went straight down into the
yuck,
into the drink.
That was the section I think where they come after Ashley so fast where she's holding something. You have to really sprint to get around there because they are not messing around. There's a door right up there for them to escape.
I didn't know that I could. I was literally just taking pot shots from the other side of the bars.
Same.
Like an idiot the entire time. I didn't realize I could just run over there.
Well, see, I think
it's easier. To shoot them from the other side.
Because that's what I did. And then if you don't sprint, you don't wake up the Regenerator. So I just sat there and shot everyone through the bars. And then I, ran past and then the Regenerator finally woke up. Yeah, so I think, Sarah, I think you and I did it right, actually.
I didn't realize you had an option to not wake him up, though. I just assumed I had to.
Smart. By the way, I like there was that note. Maybe it was the same one where they talked about the wrench, but it was like the designer of the regenerator. And it was just so absurdly Resident Evil and on the nose, where he's talking about the beautiful design of the regenerator. And then he says, quote, "Surely even Dr. Frankenstein himself would want to shake my hand in admiration." It's like, okay, we got it. Thank you very much.
I mean,
Yeah,
but that's
And then
also,
the last entry is like, I
Yes.
think I might have made a mistake.
Just every stupid journal has that. Yeah.
He tells like the other lab person, and that person's in horror or whatever, and he's like, he just doesn't understand because he's a fool. And then the next one is the specimen got out. It's going wild. I was the fool after all.
Oh my God.
God.
It's like Monty Python, like note written
Yes.
while he's being eaten. Like, I hope he doesn't eat me.
There's a lot of notes in that game where it's like, at the end, they're like, oh no, this is it for me. No one's going to read this. And you're like, yeah, no one would ever read this.
What kind of freak? Fred DeNovo writes in and says, I believe this takes place in chapter 13 when you meet the regenerators. Just before they show up, you can find a dumpster that appears to be a spot to hide Ashley, like in the original game. But when you interact with it,
see that.
when you interact with it, there's just a treasure inside. I really wanted
bracelet.
to get her in that dumpster. Nearby, there's an actual locker for her to hide in or something, but it's a nice little nod to the past. Yeah.
I went over there and I was like, Ashley, get in. And I opened it and I was like, oh, just kidding. There's a bracelet in here.
Victor Pham says about the starting part of the island. One thing I noticed while fighting the guy with the minigun strapped to his arm was that you can shoot it and it explodes. It's always nice when you experiment in a game and you feel rewarded for it. Yeah, is that the guy with another animal head man?
Bebop.
Yeah, he was pretty cool. I'm glad he was having a good time out there. I like just all the old computers during this section too. Anytime there's an old computer in any part of this, I would just stop and go look at it. And they give you like a point of inspection later during like the Ashley healing station where you can look at this old computer and they're like, what an old piece of junk. And in my head canon, I was like, I wonder if these were like modeled on the computers they made the original game on. That's probably too much of a stretch, but I hope that they would be that cheeky.
And it's still 2005 in that world, right?
Right.
So
right.
he's like, what a piece of cutting edge technology.
I'm impressed, actually. Hey, I got a dumb question. These green herbs everywhere. Is it worth it? I'm trying to figure out when it's not worth it to make combinations. Like, is it always worth it to combine green herbs? Like, to go for the triple green herb? That feels like overkill for me. I feel like 2 was healing enough where like the triple, that's outrageous, right?
well, you know what the yellow does, right?
Oh, I'm hip to the yellow. I'm hip to the yellow, boy.
Well, because it extends your health. And then I was surprised I extended it all the way. And
Yeah,
still
same
finding
here.
yellow herbs, which I didn't. I was like, oh, okay. But if you add yellow, it does give you more health. So like I would basically keep triples and then would only use them if I had like 1 health, basically, and it would fill you all the way up.
Right. So triples of green, or saying 2 green?
I'm sorry, green, red, and yellow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
I would only use green by itself in a dire emergency. I
Okay.
basically didn't use green unless I was combining it with something.
Yeah. Brian C. writes in, they say, did you know that the yellow herbs are not the only way to increase your maximum health now? There's a handful of rhinoceros beetles hidden throughout the game, and eating one not only provides a full heal, but will extend your maximum health. Alternatively, you can also sell them to a merchant for 10K. I did not
This
know
sounds
that.
like the kind of
Is this
rumor
made
I
up?
would hear on the playground. Like I didn't see any of these.
No.
Yeah, no, they're real, but they're not
Yeah.
they're not like highlighted. You know, it's just like a beetle on a wall and you have to walk up to it
Really?
and be like interact.
Oh,
funny.
weird. That's cool.
What was that other game? Was it another Deepest Dive we were doing where there were bugs everywhere, but you couldn't do anything with them? What was that game?
God of War.
Yes, that was
a lot of bugs.
That's right. I feel like we were just talking about some sort of Deepest Dive like scenario. Clint writes in with a mind-boggling thing. He says, does anyone actually use the dedicated crafting submenu instead of just crafting in the attaché case? That's all I used. Were you guys crafting right from the case?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I will say the original you would literally pick. Correct me if I'm wrong, Sarah and Jacob, but you pick up like the red and you move it over and put it on top of the green to combine.
Yeah, and that's
right?
and that's what I still do. Like that still works.
You can do that?
You
Okay,
can.
because that bummed me out. I was like, oh, I wish it worked like this. I guess it didn't occur to me to press square and try to move it. Yeah, I would have. I because the thing that I don't like is when you press X or whatever on the green herb and then it gives you a big list, And it's like, it's like too much information. It's like, I don't tell me all the things I can't make. Just show me what I can make, you know, a minor annoyance.
Yeah, I was always just right to that crafting menu, but I was kind of annoyed because you'd have to really like dig through it because there's so many options that are like grayed out. I'm like, just give me the things I can craft to the top at a certain point.
Yeah, well, that's, I mean, it's like if you're in the attaché and you click on like large, whatever large piece of scrap, it's just like you want to make rifle or a flash grenade, and then you just do that.
Oh, I never did that once. I blew it. Spencer Smith says, I have to say, excellent game. However, I do miss the incendiary grenades. I don't care what their damage output technically was or what speedrunners or Resident Evil 4 superfans say. It is fun to set monsters on fire. I did have fun shooting Molotovs out of enemy hands, but I want to set them on fire on my schedule, not theirs. It's surprising considering the developers clearly put the work in for the fire effects in general, but I guess it's just another difference between the games that makes them both worth playing at this point. That is surprising that they would take those out. I wonder why they did that.
I mean, those are always the last thing I would use.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you'd get to the point in RE4 where your case would just be full of grenades and be like, I guess I have to use these.
Yeah. Let's see. This one doesn't have a name. So an anonymous person said, if there's one thing I liked about the original Resident Evil 4 versus this one, it's the Ganados' level of reactivity to your shots. In the original version, a shot to the head or shins would always stagger them and put them in a state to melee. In this remake, a shot to the head of a Ganado sometimes produces no noticeable reaction. Am I the only one who thinks this doesn't feel very good? Do you notice that, Jacob? Boiling this stuff down?
Yeah, it's definitely, I think it's most noticeable early on because when you upgrade your pistol's damage, you stagger more consistently. But I think there's a lot to counter how much more mobile Leon is. Like, I think if they kept the enemy behavior the same, this game would just be like incredibly easy because it would like you shoot them in the foot once and they fall down in the original. And if you could do that and move while shooting, I don't think there would be a challenge. But I agree that it's like it's less satisfying to have them just walk through shots.
Yeah. Mitch writes in over on Patreon, said, just because it hasn't come up before, I find it very funny that using your knife to stab the soft neck tissue of a Ganado greatly decreases knife durability, but Leon can stab and swipe at the hard concrete ground infinitely with no penalty. They even play a metal sound effect, so he definitely is making contact. I thought of this while working on the third rat hunting request. I feel like hunting rats in a sewer would be a fool's errand, but here I am, a fool. The knife durability is all over the place. Drake H got to the core of my soul with this one. They say, during the last deepest dive, I noticed in the gameplay footage that is probably Ben Hansen's, that Hansen got the trophy called Knife Basics during the Krause fight. This trophy is for doing your first parry on an enemy attack. Ben, I know you don't want the game to be easy, but not parrying makes the game so much harder. I hope you tried it more during this last section. You can even parry machine guns by slicing the shots out of the air. This is why I was a little bit confused when everyone was writing in about parrying in that first episode, because apparently I was just, I was just not doing it at all. And even, it was only the Krause fights. That's the only time I would parry in this entire game. Like, you're like a lightsaber? I don't even understand. You're parrying shots? What are you parrying?
I mean, it's like, I ended up parrying a lot more as we progressed, but I mean, you can like parry axes out of the air. Basically, I just became a habit of pressing L1 if I was getting cornered.
Yeah, and it's a really generous timing window.
Okay.
It's just like when they're swinging at you, you hit L1 and you will smack it away.
Okay. I had heard that you can even just hold L1 and he'll block it, right? I don't know if this is true, but like, I don't know if it's that generous. Maybe someone said it because it felt like that.
Maybe they're being cheeky.
But I did end up parrying a lot more, and it is very satisfying to block stuff that you didn't think you could block. The electrical batons, I don't think you can parry those. I think
you can, but if you don't get a perfect parry, then Leon is like shocked for a minute, and so they can kind of hit you again.
Okay, I guess I just never got a perfect parry on those then, because I was getting shocked a lot.
So I guess, Jeff, due to my stupidity, I kind of played this game on hard mode. What do you think about that?
You also didn't buy a rifle, so there's a lot we have to
Professional
reflect
Ben
on.
Hansen.
And you don't like Magnum guns either?
Yeah.
And you're the only one, I don't know about Jacob, but you're the only one that used that dumb weapon that Ashley got rid of all your ammo.
Shooter.
Okay, if we attack bolts one more time on this podcast, I'm turning this whole thing around.
I was a team team bolt thrower until I was watching the footage of you fighting the two Gyarados, and I was like, oh no.
Because it just took forever. But it's fun, man. It's fun. Like, my favorite thing in the game is when, like, you see one of those bad boys with the crossbows, and I'm just like, all right, eye for an eye, baby, and I take out the bolt thrower, and then it's just pew pew, little pissing match.
The fun thing with the bolt thrower that I did was just like, it would just be like turning the guy right in front of me into a pincushion. You know, it would just be like shooting them 20 times and then they fall down and you take it out. Don't use it on bosses or like anything far away. Because it's like weaker than a pistol shot.
Well, sure. Yeah, I definitely ran into the situation, especially with the island, because like the elevation and the geography is all over the place. But I ran into so many situations where I was like shooting at enemies far away in the distance, and then like all of the bolts would just be kind of like lodged in a rock that I couldn't get to anymore. I was like, oh God, I'm just getting a hose.
So why didn't you buy the rifle?
I wanted to save my pesetas. I wanted to buy cool stuff.
What were you spending the money on? Is what I want to know if it wasn't buying a rifle.
It's none of your business, Sarah.
What did you buy?
Eggs, all right? Eggs! I don't know.
All eggs.
Upgrades for the Red 9, upgrades for the shotgun, upgrades for the bolt, you know.
You keep saying, like, I need to save my money, but then it's like, I only use the bolt thrower. I'm not buying the rifle.
Look, I'm deeply in debt, Sarah. I cannot go into it. Let's see. Chapter 13, you wrap it up. You inject Ashley with the little slower down virus thinger and save her a little bit. The black veins start to go away and all that fun stuff. Then we're in chapter 14. Here we go. She's talking about Louise. She's confused about it. She, calls herself the master of unlocking.
I thought that was so cute when she was like, what happened to Louise? Because in the original, I don't think she cares. Like, she's like, what happened? Like, what
happened to that guy who sexually harassed me?
What happened to that one guy? Is he alive?
But it is nice to even, like, in the end, too, like, when they heal each other, that she even has that line, too, of, like, this is because of Louise. You know, like, they're just constantly trying to remind you, like, you know what, that guy actually was important to this plot. We promise.
And she also has the line of, like, let's get rid of these parasites for Luis. And it's like, how about you get rid of them for yourself? Because it's in you right now.
I mean, it's kind of Luis'
doing
fault.
that for Luis.
Yeah.
Luis, like, made them exist. So, like, like, he was trying to undo his... I mean, I like Luis. You know, nothing against Luis, but...
Greg S. writes in and says, I laughed when Leon referred to the Iron Maiden as a cuddly bastard. Did y'all have a favorite Leon line in the entire game?
I shared it at the opening. Sort of the ultimate, I'll give you a holy body.
It's so unbelievable.
Stupid.
I really liked the one that I just couldn't believe wasn't in the original game was Nighty Night Nights.
Yep.
I just like the fact that was a new line and not a line from 2005. Great.
Yeah, it is truly unbelievable. Or like, you know, when he shoots Sadler, when he shoots him in the eye, when Sadler's talking, then Leon goes, tell somebody who gives a and then takes a shot at his eye. He is just beyond parody. He is so delightfully stupid as a character. And apparently the hottest person on Earth. He's going to be on the next Swimsuit Magazine issue. I don't know.
The fight between him and Krauser the second time was like two ChatGPT bots just throwing out as many one-liners as they could come up with towards each other.
Is unbelievable. Wow. And like, I was excited. You know, we talked about Krauser's introduction last time around about just like, who is this guy? Why should we care? And now we get more of his backstory, and his backstory is, I learned my lesson in Operation Javier. Turns out what's important in this world is power. And boy, do I want power. Like, there were just so many cliches in that fight. Like, he says, you're even more naive than I thought, talking to Leon. And then then later he's talking about Ashley. He's like, you can't save her. You can't save anyone. And then he has a line also of, you and me, Leon, we're two sides of the same coin. It's like, it is beyond ChatGPT, Jeff. It is just unbelievable. They're just hitting every beat.
Well, he's not a very creative guy. I mean, he's just, his motivation is, I want to be
set up that entire course, though, for you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I like that he has the moment of like, just do it, Leon, just kill me. And like, you know, in most fiction, that's the moment where they're like, no, I'm not going to kill you.
Right.
But Leon's like, okay, in the neck right now?
Yeah,
okay,
I know.
sure.
I thought that was kind of cool. It was like Leon
like
being like kind of hard, you know, in a way that is mostly just this like goofy guy. It's like, oh nope, here he goes. He stabbed him to death, and then like looks at his reflection in the knife.
Yeah, and maybe it was just
well, I mean, like he
takes
had
out the lip
photo of
gloss he
Leon.
stole from Salazar.
Did you find the photo Krauser had of Leon? And it was, like,
Yes.
coming for you. Like, it's like, I'm sorry, but like, I don't
it's
understand.
Like, it's been in his wallet.
Do you hate me or are you in love with me? Because there's a lot of mixed signals here.
I think it's pretty clear there's some infatuation there. Yeah, he just writes, I'm waiting, like in red on that
His
picture.
like first day of work photo too. He's like at Raccoon City. He's like, can't wait to join the force.
Boy, howdy. Yeah, he is such a bizarre character. Let's see. Starting out, this is the one, this is the chapter then where Ashley is holding the thing. Y'all run around, yada, yada. Aaron T says, I like how realistic Capcom went with this remake. In the waste disposal section of Chapter 14, there are cockroaches that skitter around the area. True to life, they're immune to all damage, knives, bullets, grenades. Nothing slows them down. Were these the real monsters all along? Yes, they were. Yes, they were, in fact. Then there is the whole section where you see Sadler, Leon takes that shot, all that stuff. Sadler, he does a lot of talk about like, obey the voice of the Lord. Oh, our God. Is the God the parasite?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's just a zealot who's just interpreting what is a parasite as like power bestowed upon humanity by God, but it's just a parasite.
Well, that's just, okay, but that's the question. You say by God. I mean, is his angle like he started out with the Christian God and now this is a way to bend everybody to your will so they will believe that? Not to say that he's just straight up a Christian, but when he's constantly
he believes in like Jesus and stuff.
How? I mean,
yeah, there's a note about it, dude.
Is your read, Jacob, that the God is the parasite, or that he's using the parasite to make people worship his version of a God?
No, he thinks that. I'm not speaking authoritatively. I think he thinks that the parasite is, the parasite is a source of power, and that's, that's the highest form of a human can be. And I like that his design in this game, there's a parasite like attached to the back of his head.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Which is new. So I think he's like, well, clearly I'm the closest to God, because I'm like fused with this thing that's giving me power.
Right.
Who's the Voldemort actor who's in
Ralph Fiennes?
Ray Fiennes.
Ray Fiennes. Yeah. He has like a real Ray Fiennes look to him this time around.
Yeah. Don't get Jan started on the menu.
Yeah, not as hot, to be clear. Yeah.
I like that idea of him taking over Ashley's mind, and she has the gun and she's like trying to resist it, and she takes a couple shots and takes out like the little assistants, which, by the way, my favorite character design of this whole thing is like Sadler's assistants, like in the white, like they look so cool. Yeah. It's like the weird Palpatine guards in Star Wars. I'm a sucker for those weirdos.
Yeah, and you never like fight them. They're only ever in that cutscene, right?
Yeah.
They're too cool to fight.
That is
You don't
weird.
want to see them in game.
I bet, put money on it, that's going to be the DLC. That feels like something that it's like, okay, he secretly has 6.
Like, if she had this kind of aim, why didn't we just give her a gun before? Because she just did like, she got headshots twice in a row.
Yeah, I've got 6 guns in storage. What are you doing?
Also, like, I keep my gun topped off like to a fault, right? Like I reload way too often, too quickly.
Right.
So there's no way that only had 2 bullets in the chamber. Like it's just that's just not
I know that's what you're in front of me. Like, excuse me, I always reload. I have really good really good reload habits.
Yeah,
Ashley would have shot me in the head.
Yeah.
I do think it's cool though that like she was this close to shooting Leon in the head. I mean,
it was a cool cutscene in the moment of like, because it's the reveal, right? She fires, and then it's the reveal that she shot the one, and then she fires again. It's the reveal that shot the. I liked it. It got me. Like it was their intention was well executed for me, because I was like, oh, she really shot him, and I was like, oh wait, no, she didn't.
Now, Kyle, when you were playing the game, did you push your glasses up on your nose when you said your intentions well executed, Capcom? Okay.
Yeah, is that not?
No, you're a critic. You're a critic. No,
that's what I do in movie theaters too.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see the Mario movie, by the way, Kyle? I think I'm going to see it in theaters.
We're going to see it Wednesday. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Beaten Down Brian writes in and says, Capcom seems to build these remakes with speedrunners in mind. As many other sections can be easily skipped or shortened, when Ashley is manning the wrecking ball, if you throw a couple of heavy grenades at the wall, she'll break through the first time. If you fire a rocket launcher at the block section in the mines, you can skip the part looking for dynamite. Even every puzzle can be solved in seconds, says Beaten O'Brien. That's awesome.
There's also one, in addition to the crane, there are a lot of things you can do with grenades. The anti-aircraft gun that you have to like go up and shoot, you can throw grenades in that and blow it up. There are a couple sections in the castle where you can throw a grenade through a gate and blow up the counterweight. That like the kind of yellow thing that you have to shoot.
Yeah.
Usually you'd have to be on the other side of the gate, but you can chuck a grenade through the gate and blow it up. It's like there are a lot of skips in this game, and they're really easy to do if you know where they are, which is the most fun kind.
God, good job, Capcom. It's so smart. It's so fun to have them just understand fully what this game is and what it's capable of for the community. Vincent K writes in and says, the last 2 chapters were a bit too much for me, including the boss fights. Way too many enemies, way too few ammo in my chambers, and desperate for any plant to chomp on. What are they doing? Are they rubbing the herbs on their skin? Is he smoking it? Is he eating it? What's going on there?
He eats it.
He
right?
eats it. Yeah. So he puts it in the test tube.
You like turn them into pills. It's weird.
Oh, really?
And then in 7 and 8, you just dump it on your hand.
Right. Well, it makes more sense.
But I think, I genuinely, though, I think there is an image of them in 2, like the original 2, where they're ground up. So I think the idea is that you grind it up. And then sniff it. Like drugs, I assume.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does anybody else feel gross using first aid spray? It's like using big pharma. Oh, yeah. It's like, this is not right. I want all natural.
So you want to do that. You use the first aid spray if you don't have any red or yellow herbs to go with your green herbs.
Smart.
Keep the green herbs in your pocket.
Smart. Anyways, those holding out moments with the wrecking ball and the switches had me resort to selling some of my guns for a rocket launcher and blast that wall and Ramon. Krause would have been a fun fight on his own if I weren't staving for resources, but with only 2 herbs to my name and a few bullets. After dying 5 times without a checkpoint between phases, I had enough. I had to lower the difficulty, says Vincent K. No judgment. You play on whatever difficulty you want, man. You have fun playing the game. Unless it's Jeff.
It's non-stop judgment.
That's right. Yeah, you don't get the part where I've been texting him throughout the entire week, just calling him a coward. A bunch of just insulting imagery.
Don't buy that rifle. Come on, you're making it too easy.
Come on.
Bolt thrower.
Yeah, be a bolt thrower, boy. Ian T. Clark writes in and says, I guess he's jumping into Krause. But we should talk about the wrecking ball thing. I love that fight. I thought that was so fun.
The car was better.
Okay, everything was better.
Well, but there are 2. There is a wrecking ball in the original as well. So they kind of combined them.
Is that right? Okay.
All right, I'll allow it.
Yeah, that was definitely a tough section. Like there's so much to get distracted by, and then like every time she's like, Leon, it's like, what? Some guy's like just standing on the edge of the wrecking ball thing. It's not a big deal. Like he's not going to pull you out. You'll be okay there. But
he's just trying to wash your windshield.
Yeah, exactly, with a newspaper.
Yeah, when the bug showed up though, that was like I was like, oh my god. But I was able to hit the time that I finished it, which I think it did take me a couple tries. Was like I hit like 60-70% of them with 1 grenade, and that felt really good.
Oh, that's awesome.
Nice. Yeah, or when all the parasites come down, if you get like a flash at the right time and they just all shrivel up.
Sweet. Ian T. Clark writes in though and says, in this section of the game, just before the encounter with Krause, you pass through a tent where you get the redacted case file. Just to the right of the tent's entrance, there's a box of bloody, torn up leather straps. The level of detail stopped me dead in my tracks as I pondered their purpose. These must have been used as makeshift tourniquets to aid the wounded. What a wild thing to include in the game's environment. That's where they take care of Ganados who are hurt while training, apparently, or something. That's a cool idea.
That would not be my first thought. Like, the bloody tourniquets that we keep in this box over here.
Yeah, that's just like Krauser's outfit from the previous day.
So what did you make of the big pile of dog tags in Krauser's little tent? Are those like all the people that were lost in Operation Javier? Is that the idea, you think? Everyone's nodding.
I would assume so.
Okay.
Yeah.
That the U.S. government killed, I believe, are the details of that.
Yeah, so he was in South America trying to eradicate the drug cartels, and then there was some whistleblower. Krause wanted to expose what went wrong, and the American president didn't extract anybody and shut him down. This was like 2 years ago, so it's like, okay, so that's the idea. That's why he's mad at the president. Therefore, he wanted to kidnap the president's daughter, Ashley. And there's a little more extra fuel to that. I would imagine it's the same president as was Ashley's dad or whatever. Also, there's a weird part too in his tent where he's talking about, I think it was during Operation Javier, but some part where they talk about like the driver of a vehicle, his last name was Baker. So it's like, is that a Resident Evil 7 connection?
That would be really tenuous because like the Bakers are like, they're outside of it, man. Like they really have, but maybe there was something there. Well, that'd be cool. I like all that sort of interconnective tissue. I think that's really fun.
Yeah, I was looking, there was an article about it, just, some fan site trying to break it down. And even, their conclusion was like, doesn't really make sense that a member of the Baker family, maybe like an extended cousin or something, to try. And...
So yes, no, maybe Joe on Twitch is watching this live said that they think maybe Jack Baker was a Marine, which would make sense and be interesting. But yeah, I don't know.
I'll be damned. Alex K says, I found it tough to tell if I was dealing any damage to Krauser in the boss fight, which in a way actually made it more tense. I was down to my last sliver of health, all out of healing items and little ammo left. As he was bearing down on me, I was convinced this was the end until the relief of the trophy pop-up after a final shotgun blast. Having no idea how close I was to beating him really ramped up the tension until the final shot. I felt like I had barely made a dent. I thought this Krauser fight was really cool. Like, I like the long, elaborate buildup of just going through his Home Alone maze. It's stupid, but like it gives you more time to talk with them. That's really, you just need an opportunity.
I liked it.
Also, he was so big on like guns are for cowards, knives all day, and then in this section he's just like unloading on you, and he has like turrets set up. Like, come on, Krauser, should be just a knife amusement park in here, buddy.
I thought it was really cool that you I didn't expect to get a new knife.
Yeah.
I just thought Leon's got the one knife or whatever. And so for you to get Krauser's, and then I immediately sold my old one and pumped up that one was cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, I just had two knives. That seemed like a better system for me since they break, right?
I mean, I felt like at the end I didn't have the knives breaking as much, and so I just put points into the durability of Krauser's one, and it did fine.
Nice.
Did you guys? I never, ever, without even paying any attention to the knives at all, ever I always hit the R2 prompt when it appeared, and I never didn't have a knife. To the point where it was I didn't, the sort of knife juice, as we called it, was a zero factor because I just always happened to have a knife, and then I always fixed my knife whenever I got to a merchant.
I think there was maybe one section where I was out of absolutely everything, but it definitely wasn't. I guess that's pretty smart of them to introduce this mechanic, and then it's it's there. You think about it, but it's never going to drain your experience or your fun in the big way.
And I guess there are a couple things. One, if you're using the bolt thrower, you're using knives to craft bolts, so you have fewer of them. Right. And also, it's if you're parrying more, which you do on higher difficulties, then they do break more easily. And I think just things take bigger chunks out of your knife health.
Grizzled Gaming says, my new favorite Leon line comes during the Krauser fight. After the first transformation, Krauser says, "Witness the power!" To which Leon replies in the driest, most deadpan way, "So that's your true power? Oh, I'd ask for a refund." Yeah, Leon, you're doing it, buddy.
You got it.
I'm just glad they got rid of the timer.
Oh, there's a timer in that section?
There was a timer, and even if you beat Krauser, if you did it within the last 10 seconds, you would still lose because you had to physically leave the area before the bomb went off.
Oh, that's so.
Even if you killed Krauser and you ran for your life, you would literally still die.
Weird. Man, I was convinced that this was entirely new. And then I was talking to a friend of the show, Blake Kester. He's like, "What are you talking about? That whole thing's in the original." I'm like, "What?" And looking at footage, I'm like, I have zero memory of this. It's so, I hate the fact that I forgot all this section because I think it's cool.
Of the Home Alone
aspect? The entire second Krauser fight.
That too.
I can't imagine
really?
being you guys and being like, "Wow, this is so new."
Good job, Capcom. Where do you get your ideas from?
And his big line in the original is "Witness the power." He says that and he holds up his weird arm.
Well, yeah, the idea is that he loves knives so much, I guess, that he turns his arm into a knife, both of his arms into knives. That's kind of the way to go. Mucus writes in and says, the second Krauser encounter in Chapter 14 was a thrilling set piece that flowed smoothly from beginning to end, going from cover to cover, avoiding his shots, heading into the claustrophobic catacomb area. Claustrophobic? Am I on air? Am I breaking down? Sarah, am I live?
That's questionable.
Okay. heading into the claustrophobic catacomb area where he would randomly pop out and try and shank you. And then the glorious over-the-top finale starts with tense action, then switches to dark and terrifying corridors and ends with the grand and glorious final fight. It hit every mark all in one single 15-minute section of the game, encapsulating everything that makes this baby shine. Masterful design. I loved every second of it.
I had the opposite reaction. I was like, this is incredibly embarrassing for you. I can't believe like this is what you've done with your free time, and now I'm crawling through a dark hole while you take pot shots at me and we're having fun, I guess. And then at the end when he lays there and he's like, come on, Leon, do it, stab me, and I'm like, are you into this? Like,
you just don't
know.
You don't understand masculinity, Sarah. It makes a lot of sense.
It was incredible. When he took his shirt off, I was like, does Leon take his shirt off now? Like, it only seems fair.
I guess you gotta do it, yeah. I mean, I think this entire buildup was cool. The final actually fighting section, maybe I wasn't understanding the strategy. I was just kind of like, I just shot him with a shotgun a lot and then he died. The end.
I mean, if he's not blocking,
yeah,
right? Like he opens up, and that's basically the strategy, right? Stay away from him and wait till he sort of opens his arms to embrace you for a hug. You know, and stop him.
That's right. Yeah, that was about it for you too, Jeff.
Yeah, I liked the entire lead up more than the actual. Now I'm a monster. Fight me on this small circle.
Yeah. So he was just lying when he said he wasn't infected before, or what? He was infected?
Well, I don't think he said he wasn't infected. Leon was like, they're controlling you, and he was like, no, I got this under control.
Oh, okay. There we go.
I want this.
I want cool wings. Stephen Bellegarde says, how weird was that shot when Leon mournfully looked back at the corpse of Krause? We don't have any of the backstory needed between them to make the emotional beats hit. Also, he looks like a goober with his face paint and mutant blade arms.
The entire thing was like uncomfortable.
Uncomfortably gooberish. Yeah, the face paint I think was maybe a bit much. And then, when he's dying, he's like, I taught you well, Leon. And then Leon goes, that you did, Major. That you did.
I'd be like, who are you? Like, where were you in Raccoon City?
Well, yeah, exactly. I agree that they should have kissed, but I still like them.
Yeah, it is interesting. It's like, Krause, it feels like he's so obsessed with South America 2 years ago. And like, that was just a Tuesday for Leon. Like, Leon's been through so much, and like Raccoon City, it's like, that is his defining trauma. It's like, yeah, I don't know. I guess we killed some drug cartels and something about the president. I don't really care. But for Krause, it's like, you and I, buddy, we experienced the worst of the worst together. And Leon's like, no.
The takeaway from all of this is that we need to invest more in the mental health of our veterans.
Yeah, Sarah.
That is the takeaway from this entire Krause part.
She said it.
Resident Evil 4 for us to finally.
That's it. And then that is chapter 14. Chapter 15 starts called The Summit, if you want to put a name on it. But I thought this was cool because like it starts out, it's like that very Middle Eastern color scheme for the Krause fight. And then you're like walking up the kind of spiral ramp in this tower and the colors slowly shifting. I think it's a cool mood shift. And by the time you get to the top, it's all just like harsh blue lights, like just that transition from just color landscape to color landscape is really cool. So now you're up top. It is funny how often Ashley gets kidnapped. I know in the last segment, I'm like, they kind of weave it in pretty well. But like at this part of the game, I'm always just like, oh, that's right. Where's Ashley again? Who took her the last time? I lost track of exactly what's going on here, when she's on, when she's off. But sure, she's kidnapped again, whatever. Let's see. There wasn't a comment here, but they say, I really enjoyed how the mic part was handled in the remake. Sorry, this was anonymous, I meant to say. In the original, it's a cutscene as soon as you walk up the hill. In the remake, however, it all happens in-game. There's a really tense moment where there's several Ganado and one with a rocket launcher that has his laser sight on you. Mike in the helicopter then absolutely obliterates him and the whole group. 10 out of 10. I cheered.
That whole part, yeah, that was fun.
It just felt so damn good. Because yeah, Kyle, you're totally right. You're seeing and you're doing the mental math of how much ammo you have. There's so many people here. This is going to be such a hassle. And then just this miraculous helicopter comes in and just saves the day. Jeff, do you have thoughts on this whole helicopter weird section?
Well, as soon as he showed up, I was like, okay, countdown until Chopper Mike dies.
Oh, of course, of course.
Like,
it's so
he might as well have been
and it didn't disappoint.
It's so funny.
Yeah, he might as well flown in and been
Leon Leon was way more surprised than he should have.
I know.
How do you not know that Chopper's going down, buddy?
He might as well have been like, "Hey, Leon, it's me. You know, it's my last job before I retire. Can't wait to get you home so I can get home to my family.
Just looking
Let's
at a picture.
do this. I'm going to buy you a beer."
That's right. That's right.
Do you think that's why Leon didn't get in the helicopter at the end? Do you think he was like,
Yeah, he just doesn't trust him.
still a little like iffy on helicopters after watching that?
I think that makes sense. Yeah, but it is so funny, just that whole sequence at the end, like, of this chapter of like, all right, Leon, get in the helicopter. And it's like, oh, buddy, what are we doing? You're taking your time. You know something's going to go bad. Like, of course it's the
So
bugs.
Leon just kind of stares while the bugs swarm. I'm like, Leon, shoot. Help him! Help him!
I know we were kind
The
of...
bugs are a new wrinkle. Like in the original, it was just a dude shot it with a rocket launcher.
Oh, is
and
that
so
what it
I feel
is?
like the bugs make a little more sense.
Yeah.
Was it a significant helicopter crash in Resident Evil 2 as well, right? Like there is a crash helicopter.
Yeah, for sure.
So like he really could be genuinely scared of riding in helicopters. Like
Yeah. I like that
Oh,
idea.
no.
It makes sense, yeah.
The part, there's a part in the middle of it where you're just like fighting everyone, and our friend Mike is like, "Sorry, Leon, out of ammo." I was like, "Out of ammo?"
Sorry, the U.S. government
helicopter.
only sent him with 10 bullets, just like they only sent Leon
And
with
where
10
are you
bullets.
going to get more ammo?
Yeah,
I appreciate that Leon thinks of it as like this big favor where he's like, "Oh, I owe a Hunnigan for this one." It's like, I think she came under, frankly. I think she could have done a lot more up to this point.
And I do like, I felt stressed out just seeing at the end her computer monitor, where apparently it all came down to just a post-it note of call
Send
helicopter.
helicopter.
Yeah,
She really underlined it though. Like,
yeah,
sure she did.
underlined it twice. Like, do you know how freaking stressful this is? I'm killing bugs left and right out here, and my friends are
I
dying.
liked her computer monitor when it said, "Oh, you got a C. Good job."
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Someone pointed out that, like, in Resident Evil 8, when you run into Chris, he has, like, a whole PsyOps team. He has like a whole team. He has a whole SWAT team with him, right? Like, they have all these guns, these, like, bullets, these rocket launchers. And someone was like, do you think they learned from, like, sending, like, one person? Like, I think they learned from Leon that, like, maybe they should send more people by the time Resident Evil 8 rolls around?
That's interesting. That could be.
They sent a lot of people to South America, and it was bad. So they thought maybe if we send one person to this one, it'll be good.
That's right. No one's going to turn wacky and try and kill us. Aziz writes in and says, this might be a controversial opinion, but since Sarah brought it up, I actually prefer Resident Evil Village and even the Dead Space remake over 4. I feel like the sections that were action-focused, like the catapults, were too frustrating to play without consulting a friend or a guide to get through them. The game is great overall, but the mild frustrations here and there affected my experience. Sarah, what's your Resident Evil ranking?
I like Resident Evil 4, I think, the most.
Okay.
But because I liked the silly, goofy, fun parts.
Right. And, you know, somebody was talking about some podcast, and I can't just judge every other gaming podcast, but I listen to them all day, every day. But they're talking about like, Resident Evil franchise has gotten so serious as it went on. It's like, Resident Evil Village was pretty silly. Like, there's a lot of goofy stuff in that game. But I guess...
Yeah, the most serious one is 5.
Is that?
Probably.
That's interesting.
It's like 5 or 6. 6 kind of just falls flat trying to take itself seriously, but it's like there are not a lot of jokes in 5, and it does take itself very seriously.
Yeah.
I just
There's
don't
a
like
line
Ethan
where
Winters.
they acknowledge the B movie of it all, right? And then there's the ones that they don't. Like Code Veronica is one that's like maybe as B movie as Resident Evil 4.
Really?
Because there's people in like colonial outfits in a mansion who are yelling at Claire and stuff like that. But that one takes itself very seriously. Like I don't think there was any part of them that were like, we're making something goofy. You know what I mean? Where 4, I feel like they finally started. We're like, oh no, we can lean into this a little bit.
Yeah, we're actually having fun here on this end too, player. Don't worry about it. Yeah. You know, Craig G here. You know Craig G. They support us on Patreon, and we thank them. You know, Jeff, you know Craig?
Of course.
Craig G writes in and says, I think 4 Remake is a fantastic game, but the most interesting thing to me now is how much more consistency and connective tissue it has with its predecessors. 2, 3, and 4 now feel like more of a seamless series of entries together if you played them in sequence. When OG Resident Evil 4 released, it was obviously massively different to 1, 2, and 3, and even Code Veronica. Now, though, after 2 successful remakes, 4 Remake feels more like 2 and 3, creating a consistency between the 3 that was never there before, and I think it's really cool. Unlike Luis's jacket, says Craig. Oh, Craig.
His jacket's fine. Leave him alone. He's dead.
I do like that. I do like that in the remake era of Resident Evil, it's kind of shifted the games that are clumped together mentally. Like before, it was so clearly 1, 2, 3 line, and now it's like, well, no, now these 2, 3, 4 are the chunk. I think that's just good, fun mental game gymnastics. Let's see. Eric Z writes in. It says, given the success of Resident Evil 4 remake, how would you feel about a potential Resident Evil 5 remake?
Please do Code Veronica first, for the love of God.
Now, Kyle,
Can we get like a Resident Evil 4-2 with more Leon Kennedy?
Oh, have you played?
Because I just want more Leon Kennedy.
Sarah, have you ever played a game called Resident Evil 6?
No.
Well, there's a whole Leon third of it.
I really think, I mean,
people
have talked about like the kind of timeline splitting, or them, you know, like making a different, it's like they would just have to completely remake 5. I mean, it's like they took out the like sexual harassment comments in this game.
Yeah.
It's like I you know, the co-op stuff is really good and 5 is like fun to play, but like that setting would have to be just completely overhauled. Like they could not do it.
And I haven't played 5. It's just the idea of setting a game in Africa where you're going in there and shooting up a ton of Africans. That's the core idea.
It is like the most kind of like, hey, these people live in squalor and there are a million of them, and like you are the biggest, most muscular American and you're gonna kill 1,000 people who are wearing like tribal masks. Like it's really bad.
Okay, I mean, we could jump right into it though. Let's jump right into that bad stuff. Brandon S says, I noticed the character. We're jumping right to the end, but we're going to go back, I swear. But I noticed the character in Wesker's monitors. I also noticed the character is Wesker's monitors, and it got me really excited that Resident Evil 5 may be next. It's my favorite Resident Evil, and I want any excuse to play it again. Derek Giovanelli writes in and says, regarding the ending cutscene with Ada and Wesker, did anyone else notice the presence of a very specific key character, Excella Gion from Resident Evil 5 on Wesker's screen? I feel like this is almost a confirmation that Resident Evil 5 is up next in the lineup for Resident Evil remakes. I'm not quite sure how to feel about it. I really hope they go back and do Code Veronica first, as this is a setup, key part of the conflict/rivalry between Chris and Wesker. What are your thoughts on it?
I mean, the reason I like Code Veronica, the reason I really want that is because it would benefit in the same way Resident Evil 2 remake did, right? It's like, it's the last sort of isometric camera Resident Evil. It is also truly Resident Evil 3. Like it really is Resident Evil 3. The only reason they called Resident Evil 3 was because they kind of had this sort of unspoken commitment to have the numbered Resident Evil entries on PlayStation.
Right.
Like it really was supposed to be a spin-off. And the other thing about it is, after Resident Evil 2, which was a Leon and Claire campaign, Leon went and did Resident Evil 4. We know his continuation. Claire is Resident Evil Veronica. Like it's this crucial part of her story, and I think that's way more relevant and interesting. Like there are so many fans of Resident Evil 2 who want to see what Claire's up to next. I think more than 5, at least I would assume anyway.
And 5 like does not make sense. Like the story doesn't. I mean, if you were just like 2, 3, 4, 5, like none of the characters really have been set up, because it's a big like Chris game, and Chris isn't in 2 or 3 or 4.
And I mean, a slight spoiler for Code Veronica, it would be an opportunity to reintroduce Chris. Like it would give those people who only play the remix to learn who Chris is and understand who Chris is better.
That's interesting. It's so tough. I mean, obviously, I think Code Veronica would be the cool choice. The community would have much rejoicing. Resident Evil 1 would certainly make sense, going back and doing that remake one more time, really blowing it out in an interesting way. The part that is scary is if you imagine people at Capcom and giving a PowerPoint, the best-selling Resident Evil, I believe, is Resident Evil 5. Like, and especially after Resident Evil 4, people are saying like, well,
it's not. I think the modern ones have overtaken it. But
right?
For a long time it was.
Okay, maybe if you combine like the remakes and the original or something like that. But it's like people thought Resident Evil 4 was too recent to remake, and now they remade it, and it's just made a boatload of money. Like, I think they have every financial reason to go for 5 next. I think, but Code Veronica would no doubt be cool, but I would, if I was a gambling man, I'd say 5 is next.
No, it's the least played Resident Evil, which in their minds is like a reason not to pursue it. But you guys are both right. I just like Googled it. Like Biohazard is the best selling. This list doesn't have
that's
it.
7.
Yeah. Okay. And then 2 Remake is next, and then 5.
Okay.
After that, so
Gotcha.
3rd best selling.
I mean, but the Chris angle is interesting. If they started with 1 and did the remake of 1, then went to 5, so they could better introduce Chris, that'd be a logic. But like, would they throw away tens of millions of dollars just for the sake of introducing Chris better? Like, I don't know if a company would make that call. So. I don't know. Okay, back to Chopper Mike in chapter 15. Patrick G says, last week we talked about the music not being impactful. I thought the Chopper Mike section had the best music. The song was adrenaline pumping and epic. It went so well with the section and added a level of urgency to it. I like to work out to epic boss game music, and this one is being added to the rotation for sure. This definitely stood out to me as well. We can listen to a little bit of it here. I was being driven mad listening to this because it loops a lot. Maybe I was just stuck in the section for a lot, but I was like, I know this song. This sounds so much like some other song. I sent a message to a dear friend of the show, Tim Turry, with me singing the song. Like, what is this song from? And don't worry, I'll help everybody. Here's the song from Resident Evil 4.
Oh God, I haven't listened to it isolated.
Okay, it's just a lot of that.
Wait, but then we got to get to the part with the like the big crescendo.
Okay.
Where it's like da na na na. You might have to skip ahead a little bit. You might have skipped past it. I don't know. We don't have to go.
Oh, we will. We got all day. I don't know.
I mean, can I guess what it was reminding you of?
Yeah, you'll have to speak over us jumping around. Yeah, what do you think? What do you think?
The Wonder Woman.
Exactly, Wonder Woman
right?
theme.
Okay.
Yes, it was driving me so mad. I was like, is it Mad Max? But hang on, let's see. Yeah. I was like, God, it's just not kicking to that second part. But like, if you got to have an action theme, like having the Wonder Woman theme in there is a good call. Thank you, Patrick G. Chapter 16 starts. Oh, well, I guess end of chapter 15, they get to the lab. Everybody is twisted. Everybody's getting super sick. Leon's carrying Ashley.
Yeah, you have that weird like hallucination section.
Yeah.
That's cool.
What was I was maybe giving this game too much credit and trying to think about like, why is Leon's nightmare like this room filling with water? Do you think there's any psychological reason for like when Leon's brain is breaking down, it's like there's just water in this environment, or is that just giving it too much credit?
It should have just been a bunch of helicopters.
That's right. And high prices in the merchant stores. Oh,
I just really liked the beginning of that part because he was like, we need to get to Luis's lab. And then he kind of like picks up Ashley and falls against the wall. And he falls right against a map that in big red letters says like, you are here. And it like points to Luis's, it literally is like lab. And then he literally falls against it because I was like, where the hell is the lab? And the cutscene literally starts with him like smashing against the map.
It's perfect. Yeah. I agree. It's a masterful thing. What was the move, by the way? I meant to go back and watch it again, but when Ada is just shooting up Sadler, does he like absorb the bullets and like drop them out of his hand? There's so weird.
It's kind of like the Mask, but instead of shooting them out, he just drops them out of sand.
Much less funny than the Mask as well. Yeah, and then he hooks up Ashley to all the crazy lasers and said, "Here goes nothing."
I know how this operating system works. It's fine. It's proprietary. I've never seen it.
Can you imagine anything worse than like as you're blacking out, your last words you hear the doctor say are, "Well, here goes nothing." It's like, wait, what? All right, thanks, Leon.
I did write down what if Leon Kennedy held your hand while parasites were being shot from your body? Because he kind of like grabs her hand as she's like experiencing probably the worst pain in her entire life.
Right. And that to be your dream date scenario? Is that
what if that was like the only way Leon Kennedy would hold your hand? Would you do it? These are the questions you have to think about.
Right. And should we do a Twitch poll or what do you want here, Sarah? Okay.
We'll just
How
take
do you word that
answers
Twitch
from chat.
poll?
Yeah, we'll just assume everybody says yes. Pinguini writes in and says, Leon sounded so impressed that Ashley was able to complete the surgery on her own. Was he just trying to be nice, or did he genuinely think it was a difficult task to accomplish? Just 5 minutes before, he had done literally the same thing by simply pressing a giant purge button on a Windows 95 terminal.
Well, look, here's the thing that I was impressed by, because I was like, I don't know if I could do that. Leon probably weighs, what? Like 200 pounds,
Sure.
you know, and
Yep.
Ashley is very small and just had surgery and managed to like get him into that hospital chair.
I was confused. I know there was a note that was trying to explain this, but like Luis gave himself the physical surgery. At some point you had to do that versus the laser blast. I'm trying to remember exactly how those details work out for why this wasn't required for them to actually cut in, but whatever. Shub Hankar writes in and says, is it just me connecting dots that aren't meant to be connected? Or does the Resident Evil 4 remake suggest that Luis was involved in creating Nemesis? It's good stuff here. They say some stuff in his lab reveals that he worked at Umbrella Europe Lab 6, which is where Nemesis was made. And in the Resident Evil 3 remake, they added the detail that Nemesis was made by injecting a tyrant with an unnamed parasite. Did Luis contribute to Nemesis's creation by injecting it with Las Plagas? In 3 remake, the zombies that Nemesis infects also have weird tentacle heads that look a lot like the Las Plagas enemies in 4. That's cool.
I like it if that's what they're going for.
Yeah, I think that's really neat. So we should be angry at Luis for creating Nemesis, or we like Nemesis, therefore we should like Luis more.
He atoned.
He tried to redeem himself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He made a computer program that runs itself.
Yeah, okay.
Gets it out of your body. What do you want?
You could get rid of that lighter for one. Or just quit smoking, am I right? Tyler K. I guess this is the whole section here. So, yeah, you just get the parasites out of you. You run out, then it's basically the end boss. Like, Chapter 16 is pretty quick. You know, Ada's still zipping around.
It like ends very abruptly.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't feel like you're close to the end, and then you just kind of walk out, and then Leon's like, okay, Ashley, you stay here.
I was surprised. Like, there's that moment from the merchant, too, where he's like, if you got any old jobs, you should take care of it now.
I was surprised the merchant actually warns you. I appreciate that.
It was nice, but there's definitely a part of me where it's like, all right, he's warning me now, but there's going to be like a lot more. There's always so much more than you think. And so I was even on the fence of like, do I buy the rocket now? I guess I'll go ahead and buy the rocket. Now I'm so thankful that was it, because he wasn't lying. I feel like most games now will have one bluff of like, no coming back, and then there's still going to be a couple opportunities.
If you're like a Dragon Nation, you in fact have 7 bluffs.
Exactly. So it's weird to like take a game at its word here.
So you bought the rocket launcher?
I bought the rocket launcher. Yep.
So did Ada toss you the rocket launcher?
She did, because I used the rocket launcher in the first phase.
In the first.
Yeah, because I was out of ammo.
Because I went into it, I was like, I'm pretty sure they're going to give me one. I'm not going to buy one. Was kind of how my thought process going into it.
Did you have the money?
Actually, I don't remember. Maybe I did. Maybe I was just sort of making an excuse. You know, it's like, oh, sorry, I left my wallet in my other pants.
Y'all just like not fighting the bosses. You're like, oh, this boss has like a cool move set and like weaknesses. I guess I'll just skip it.
Not interested.
I did, that's what I'm saying. I like shooting his little eyeball knees.
Yeah, Chandler writes in and says, when did everyone use the rocket launcher? I saved mine until phase 2 of the final boss, which killed it instantly. After watching a streamer do that fight, I think I made a mistake. I didn't get that special rocket launcher from Ada, and there were far more annoying boss fights I could have used it in. So that's the thing. That was Grant, chef from Insnacks, friend of the show. He was talking about like, yeah, I saved that rocket launcher for the last shot against the final boss, and it was perfect. I was like, that's kind of cool. I kind of want to do that, but I'm glad I used it in phase 1 because Ada's just going to toss you that freebie by the end and whatnot. Jeff, how'd that last fight go for you, man?
It was fine. I also didn't get a rocket launcher, so there was a lot of running around and shooting barrels.
Yep.
And by that point, I had so many green herbs that I hadn't used for anything else. It was like, well, I'm gonna do fine. Can we talk about though before
Yes.
you go into that room?
Yes.
You go you go through the like little altar area, and there's the headstone back there that has like a bunch of nonsense writing.
Yep.
And then it's signed Adam Sadler.
Wait,
Yes, I know
really?
exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
And I guess is he
Salamander.
like is he like one of Osmond Sandler's like ancestors or something?
Well, there's also like a Keenan
but also
Sadler.
you called him
He's a
Adam
comedian.
Sadler.
He's a comedic actor.
It's very weird. And then when I saw that, I thought the other guy was named Adam Sadler. So I'm like, I'm fighting Adam Sadler as like the big boss of this game is
I think
Adam
he
Sadler.
worked for G4, right?
I think, yeah, it's all interconnected. Yeah.
Do you think someone in localization like was like, maybe we should use a different name, or did they need to use like an Adam and Eve kind of thing?
They should have.
Yeah.
But it's weird.
I think there's multiple because there's also a Keenan Sadler, like an epitaph for that I found. I was like, oh, is that his name? That's a terrible first name too. So it's look, his entire family's still good.
If you'd been working on the localization, Sarah, would you have been like, let's do like a David?
I could see bringing it up and then like immediately being shot down for some like reason, like about Adam and Eve, and it's like, okay,
Yeah.
we tried.
Yeah, it's like, and they should have had like on that stone like some little Nicky references. There's some sort of constant,
Yeah.
like an uncut
Halloween.
gem you pick up as an item, something good like that.
Be Halloween.
Tyler K writes in and says, Leon had a gem voice line right before the final boss fight. He sees Ada tied up and he says, he thinks he's going to lure me out. Then proceeds to jump down there and get lured out.
Also is like, basically like, Ada, shoot. Like, doesn't it check if she's awake?
And then she falls like 4 feet.
Right.
She like appears unconscious and she falls like 2 stories out of the air. Like, okay, like you could have caught her, I guess.
Was I not
Yeah,
paying
this-
enough attention? Like, was she helping in that fight? I was excited for like, oh, it's going to be the two of us fighting him together.
She
and
throws
then,
you the rocket launcher.
well, that, but like, there's a big gap before that where I was
Did
looking
she
around
look
be like,
conscious to you? Because she didn't look conscious to me.
I guess I didn't see where she was. She was unconscious lying somewhere.
No, doesn't she wake up and you guys both stand side
Yeah,
by
that's what I
side and
thought.
shoot him?
It's like in the
or does that
cutscene. In the
happen earlier?
cutscene. No, I think that is it. Yeah.
Okay, because that was the moment where I was like, why are you guys shooting him? Like, why are you shooting Waterboy?
But is that
like
just like
he's
a
gonna just
cutscene
suck
and then
up the
she
bullet.
like... That's a cutscene before the fight, actually. Like, the gameplay starts, right? You're not, like, in
Right.
gameplay shooting
Right.
at him. Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, the point is I
Okay.
wanted her to help out in the gameplay more. I just assumed that was going to be happening.
She
Okay.
gave
She
you a
had to
rocket
go
launcher.
get that rocket launcher.
Okay,
Yeah.
It
sure.
was heavy, you know.
She had to buy it from the merchant. She's just
Yeah.
fiddling with coins.
She was haggling. She's like, I'll sell you these 3 bass. That's, you know, like $1,200.
Have I mentioned my back? Shoji Kodo writes in and says, in the final boss fight against Sadler, I really connected with Leon when he exasperately says, I'm getting sick of your as Sadler transforms into his second phase and slaps him against a metal structure. For me, I feel like the last couple of chapters on the island were a bit of a slog, and I was ready for the game to be wrapped up at that point, so that line really spoke to me. Am I in the minority with this feeling? I think so.
I liked, maybe it's just because I haven't played this one, you know, a billion times, but I think the old Sadler monologue was more memorable. Because in the original he has this fun line where he's like, "Oh, Mr. Kennedy, you entertain me. Let me free you from your world of Hollywood movies." And so he's kind of like, "Hey, this isn't a movie." And then he turns into a giant crab thing with like a mouth eyeball.
stupid.
And in this I don't remember what he said, but it wasn't kind of as like corny villain.
Right. You know, instead of like, I'm sick of this thing, I liked in the last section, I think it was during the nights when you're on the elevator, Leon has a line where he's like, I'm sick of these games, which is like a nice, like a meta thing. I'm just sick of being controlled like this. Nikki B says, I never played the original, so I made the classic mistake of holding onto all my good ammo until I realized I was at the final boss encounter. I immediately used my rocket to one-shot Sadler into phase 2, and then unloaded about 5 magnum shots to beat the entire battle in about 20 seconds. Jacob Geller style, he says.
Hell yeah.
It's so anticlimactic and unsatisfying that I immediately reloaded and fought him legit for a proper send-off, and I'm very glad that I did.
Nice. I do really like that boss fight though, and I think it's a factor of it is like, this is the finale. I don't have to worry about ammo really. I'm just gonna throw everything I have here, and it's like it's nice to have that moment, you know, where you just kind of like You're not being conservative at all. And also you have lots of room to move around, which is nice. And it's like, it's really clear what you're supposed to do immediately, which is a very Resident Evil thing. It's always eyeballs.
Shoot the eyeballs. Yep.
And then it's like the final moment of shooting the rocket launcher is so straightforward and satisfying. It's kind of like, I think it was Gears of War 2 has its great ending where like the final boss that you fight, you're just shooting lasers from the sky, and it's not challenging at all, but it's just really satisfying. And that, Gears of War, it has a lot of debt to Resident Evil, which they've always, explained and been open about. And I don't know if that's kind of where they got that from, but I just like when games do that, when they're just like, this boss will be challenging, but like the final moment won't be. It's just going to be fun.
I mean, and Resident Evil just is rocket launchers. Like that's how you're finishing the boss, is a rocket launcher.
Yeah,
that's
I love that.
Von S says the new version of that final Sadler fight was very disappointing to me. Kyle was wrong.
Oh, sorry. My
bad. They could have made the fight more interesting by giving him a lot more new moves or just speeding him up to add to the tension of deciding to stop running and aim. Instead, they just added a phase with the bugs. Big lame. I can see that as their choice to allow for them to drop ammo/health for the player, but more enemies on the screen takes away from Sadler's big moment. Yeah, I don't mind the bugs having more of an opportunity. Again, I was just so low on ammo that's like, okay, anything that can replenish me. I just want to see a wave of those bugs flying in. It's just like, Daddy's eating well tonight, is what I said to my TV screen.
I always really like the inclusion of just like a tiny bit of feeling like you can game the system, where when he goes down and his eyeball kind of flops up, there's the prompt to stab it. But if you're quick, you can like shoot it first and then stab it. And so it's like, aha, I'm doing more damage during and it's like, they don't have a health bar. So I don't even know like if it's doing that much more, but it just feels like you're kind of able to take advantage of it.
Right. Maybe it's just because, I played Resident Evil 3 Remake not too long ago, but I was in the camp of like, is this guy really dead? I was fully bracing for like, there's going to be one more round. I wasn't feeling like this is the 100% definitive death happening
after he turned into Cthulhu and you stabbed him with a spear.
I don't know. It's weird to be like trained from a series to be like, yeah, but I think there's still a little more juice in that tank somewhere. Some other form's going to come out.
I also like that when he fell off that cliff, like they did not try and sell that at all. It was like split second. Okay, now he's right back up.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Sarah, did you have a tough time with the final boss, or how'd it go for you?
No, I also just like used the rocket launcher and like I downed him and then I immediately used the rocket launcher and then he went to phase 2 and I was so confused. I was like, no, like that wasn't it. No. And then he became a giant octopus man, and then Ada shows up and she's like, here's another rocket launcher, and I was like, and I shot him again and he died, and I was like, is that it?
Right.
I find like Resident Evil games final bosses are just sometimes lackluster.
Well, because we're Final Fantasy fans, and you need like some sort of ultimate god like character. So if it's just kind of like another big monster, and I guess
because the Ramon fight was harder. It was weird that they made that the Ramon fight so hard, and they were like, this one is just it's fine. Here's a rocket launcher.
Right. I'm just saying, Jake Geller, I wish that his bug god came out and we got to fight him instead.
I feel like he turned into a god at the end.
It's
like
a
that phase
god.
2 is new. It's like he's a Kraken.
I want the god. I'm a Biggie boy writes in.
I'm the one from the Bible.
Oh, I get it. Cool. I'm a Biggie boy writes in and says, I had to laugh at that final escape sequence where the island just kind of decided to self-destruct. Leon's line.
Yeah, why was that?
It makes no sense. Leon's line, the island's gonna blow, hit Ashley and I the same way, both replying with some form of, what? To which Leon just replies, yeah. Did I miss something? I'm honestly on board with zero explanation given the game's tone, but I'm a little confused by that and the 3 to 4 endings they sprinkled throughout the credits. It's cooler if the island blows up. Oh, Twitch says they assume Ada did it. That's a safe guess that Ada was.
That's where she was during the boss fight.
Right.
Just putting C4 on every part of the island.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Jason L says the enemies on the ground spasming after Sadler's death as you escape was great, but the last Clockwork Castellan being hidden in a dark room with the timer pumping irritated me. Did any of you actually find it organically without any tip-off? How many did you find in total?
This? I don't even know what you're talking about.
There's a collectible throughout the game.
Like the bobblehead.
Those little dolls.
Oh, yeah, I only found like 4 of those. I I gave up on those pretty quickly.
Yeah, I did not get that one at all. But I do love that idea. Like as you're running through all these people, like my mind, and trying to explain to Ashley, like I don't know. It's like if their person telling them what to do for everything is just dead. Like that's a cool idea for everybody's mind shattering in this entire region. Krause the guy says, I seriously can't be the only person who didn't know the jet ski can accelerate, can I? I died in a horrific explosion at least 3 times until I realized you could accelerate. Then I died a few more times driving directly into rocks. Imagine Leon going through all this only to crash on a jet ski and ragdoll to his death. Yeah, that's a rough go.
It says R2 accelerate.
It seems a little clear. I don't want to judge.
Under the bus. But.
It was interesting because like the last time we were driving a boat on the lake, it's like, oh, you're incentivized to swerve to every box to get the money, you know, and now in this one's like, okay, I guess I should not hit anything. All right, sure. On my water scooter or whatever.
I like Leon talking to Ashley being like, so I'm not supposed to hit everything?
You're telling me there's no money in that. No money at all.
I just like that you go through all of that, you get out, and then it's like, all right, you know, I can't remember what Ashley said, but he says something like, the mission's not over till I get you home. And then he just drives out into the ocean on a water scooter.
Now across the Atlantic.
And I love that, like, in Ada's cutscene, you can see them down there, and they didn't really make it that far away from the main island because they are, like, on a jet ski, and she's, like, looking at them, and they're like...
Yeah. Also, like, we've established that the Ganado do not fill up the gas tank when they're done with the
that was
water
Ada's
scooters. So, like,
because it had like a teddy bear on the keychain. So I believe it was Ada's.
You know, that's a good point.
Okay. Yeah, Jared
Ada
B
is a responsible water
She's more
scooter
prepared.
owner. You're right, yeah.
Jared B is right there with you, Kyle, saying, I imagine that Leon and Ashley ran out of gas for the jet ski in the middle of the Atlantic on their way from quote-unquote Europe. I'm sure Leon remarked, what, she didn't fill the tank before she left? Also, I love how the entire game took place in an unnamed European region. That was Spain, right? It was actually the region from Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. A few people talk about that, but canonically it was that one. Wow. It's just bizarre. Like when they're getting on that jet ski and then Leon's just like, you like thrill rides? Then you're going to love this.
I just hate that he turned down the helicopter.
I know.
Ashley's like, yeah. I do love thrill rides.
It's like, what is your life at this point, Ashley? I did like that moment before the boss fight. I thought it was sweet just for the relationship where Ashley like drops a ladder from above and then Leon's like, you're getting good at this. And she goes, right? I was like, I thought that was nice. I thought that was like a nice little line delivery from her.
Also, they changed the Ashley line at the end just a little, but I think it reads a lot better. Where in the original, her kind of flirt was like, hey, want to do some overtime?
Right.
And then, and in this one, she says, hey, I can talk to my dad and get you like assigned to my detail. And both are flirting. But the first one is like, hey, you want to just like go somewhere and bang? Like it's a very kind of...
But here it's like, I'll get you a job. My dad's he can hook you up.
I don't know if you know this. My dad's actually the president. So
and then importantly, in Resident Evil 6, Leon Kennedy does shoot the president in the head. So that's right. That's foreshadowing.
In the first half hour or something, right?
But it's a different president, or is it Ashley's dad?
Ooh,
well, who knows?
Great question.
Because I forgot that everyone called it President Evil 6. I forgot about that whole thing. Yeah. Sarah, would you ever play Resident Evil 6?
Probably. I don't know. I've been working through them.
Yeah. I got bad news, Sarah. It'd be funny. It'd be funny to see you stream that game and your Twitch chat would like it. But, you know, you're your own person, you know?
I haven't done 1, 5, or 6 yet.
Wow. Okay. Maybe wait for remakes. Who knows?
Okay. To be clear, President Adam Benford in Resident Evil 6 is, you know, it was after President Graham, so it's not Ashley's father.
He was the vice president for President Graham. Okay, smart.
Maybe that part I'll have to look up.
Wahoo! Garrett Holfish writes in.
Gonna Google it.
Garrett Holfish writes in and says, I'm sure we're all excited about that final post-credits reveal. We're back at Hunnikin's desk. The camera pulls in towards the monitor, and we see on a sticky note, Bingo, Friday at 10 p.m. With this bit of lore, we finally understand how big of a deal Bingo is in the Resident Evil universe. That's why Leon assumes others are eager for Bingo as well. Yeah, Bingo
Good
is...
callback.
Yeah, it's like their Fortnite. Like everyone's really into Bingo in the Resident Evil universe.
Also, are we to assume Hunnigan was doing like an employee review for Leon, and that was like the final task. They're safe. Let me review his progress.
It took him 19 hours and 27 minutes. Okay, good to know.
B.
I got a B too, man. Mm-hmm. Is everyone B'ing it up?
I did take a picture of my stats in case we wanted to talk about them.
Sure. I died 9 times in chapter 7. That was my peak death chapter. I
do think it's frustrating.
I'm trying to remember. I don't know.
The grade system is frustrating to me because it is purely on time. Like, it's not
really?
based on deaths or anything else. It is just how fast you beat the game, which feels like a missed opportunity, but maybe is also at least like more clear, less. I don't know.
Sarah, it was the castle catapults. I just ran into those things so many times, apparently. That's really bizarre.
I wish they would have showed you, instead of like amount of time saved, I feel like there's like a better stat they could put there. Because like I don't really need you to like save shame me, because like I am a serial saver. Like I will save, forget that I saved, and then save again just to feel better.
100%, yeah.
So like don't bring this number up.
Yeah, I was at 91.
I think it should be like Leon saved one person and he killed 1,400 people.
Yeah.
Comma, they deserved it. It's funny, in each chapter you do get to see like total enemies killed. If you're really into like breaking down those stats and stuff, it's fun to go beat by beat there for all that. I was confused when like they're on the jet ski and then Hunnigan's calling. She's like, "Where are you? Come on." It's like, what? You're refusing to talk to Hunnigan? Am I missing something? Why is he too cool for Hunnigan all of a sudden?
That's gonna make running out of the gas in the middle of the ocean all more fun too.
It's very
maybe you should have answered that.
Yeah, it seems very important. The big thing, you get to see Ada talking to Wesker. Jeffum, how'd you feel about your big boy Wesker coming into play?
There he was.
Who the heck is Wesker? I'm so tired of this guy.
Oh yeah, I guess so. Oh, when you play Resident Evil 1, man,
Resident Evil 5 Wesker is unmatched in his absurdity.
Yeah, he's a cartoon character. He's a big evil guy, Sarah.
I was just confused during that entire conversation because she has the amber, which he desperately wants,
right.
And he's just going to lay out like, no, I'm going to kill billions of people once you give it to me.
Right.
Well, she's like, tell me what you're going to do with it. And he's like, no. All you need to know is that it will kill millions to billions of people, and it's very important to my evil plan.
Yeah, it's like you can tell she's on the fence, Wesker. Shut up, you idiot. And then she changes the helicopter direction, and then that's the big
I thought she was going to
there.
throw it into the ocean.
Yeah.
That's what.
Oh, well. It's just shoot
gonna
it with
sell
all
it to a nice person.
Gotta set up DLC.
That's right. Sell it to the merchant. That'd be a cool move.
You guys all are talking about DLC with a lot of confidence, but I mean, 2 and 3 Remake didn't get DLC, right?
I believe, did they confirm?
Okay.
I think they
I don't
confirmed.
know if they confirmed it in a press release, but they confirmed it by having Leon say, I guess we have to go our separate ways. And separate ways is the name of this secondary campaign in RE4. So it's like, I would put money on it happening.
Yeah.
I mean, but then they've said that they're like, we're doing VR. Do you think that's first? Or do you think they've split the team?
I bet DLC is first.
Yeah, or VR separate team, because I also think there's going to be more Mercenaries DLC. I think there's going to be. I think they're going in on this game. I mean, 7 had like 4 pieces of DLC.
But Village,
Village had a big one.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, to be clear, I want it. I just like kind of assumed that they wouldn't for some reason, just because I was looking at 2 and 3 Remake. But
yeah,
I'd love it. I mean, there's room for it. For sure.
Well, there was in the PS2 version. There's like the Ada story, right? Where you played as Ada.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there were.
I mean, one you played as you could play as Ada after.
There were 2 different things. There was one called Assignment Ada, which was kind of like a mini game, and then there's a different one called Separate Ways, which is like a 6-hour campaign.
Really? Is it good?
Yeah. It's more Resident Evil 4, and you play as Ada.
It says 5 new chapters that reveal startling insight into the original story.
I like that we could see the Wii box.
Perfect.
Play as glamorous agent Ada Wong.
Glamorous. King Prometheus writes in and says, I can't get over how this game feels like a Resident Evil 4 fever dream. Across the entire game, some rooms are identical, some rooms are exactly the same, but just mirrored from the original. Some rooms are the same, but they connect to different rooms than they did before. Some rooms are completely new. As someone who played the original many, many times, it was so strange to both recognize and not recognize the game. But in the end, I loved it. I'm already on playthrough number 4, and I'll be going for professional S+ soon. Yeah, Jacob Geller, is it just a cool mind trip to know a game so well and then just try to do the mental math about how they're remixing all this stuff?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it really does feel like a totally new game.
Really?
I mean, obviously, it's like there's, I recognize stuff, but it's just like the changes to like playability, I feel like make every room feel so different, even if they're shaped the same. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm so obsessed with the original that every tiny little detail feels huge, but like they feel very just like distinct and different to me.
Yeah. Shoes writes in and says, I don't know if this was mentioned earlier, but in the original game, Leon pronounces Luisa's name incorrectly. He yells, Lois, when he dies. I wonder if the developers didn't pass the note on to the voice actor the first time around about the correct pronunciation, or if Leon as a character is just a better listener this time around. I think he is.
Well, now he can speak Spanish.
He speaks Spanish.
Oh,
now,
that's true. That is true.
Which he like kind of stopped doing halfway. Like he did it once, and then
he
never
learned
did
that
it
he
again.
could shoot them instead of speaking.
Right. Smart. Sarah, were you into, by the way, in the start of chapter 16, like when they're all healed in that hospital, like they get like a good sensual hug, Ashley and Leon? Is that up your alley? Or
I don't remember it.
Okay.
So I must have blocked it out from sheer rage.
Was it romantic when Leon was like in that earlier chapter when he's like, I'm gonna guard your corpse all night, Ashley. I'll sit here with my gun and reload it in that weird way and look on it.
See, in that moment, I feel it's like, in that moment where he's like sitting in front of Ashley's corpse and he's like, I was like, he just remembered that he's a government employee.
Okay, is that what it is?
In that moment. And I hope that he has a pension.
Yeah. Okay. Smart. Brian Stanley says, the broken butterfly magnum felt a little too inaccurate in this game. Fortunately, the Killer 7 is back in glorious fashion. It sports high base damage, a 5 times chance of a critical hit for the exclusive upgrade, and a built-in laser sight to help you make every shot count. It's worth the 77,000 pesetas price tag. Good night, child. It's past your bedtime, says Brian Stanley. All right.
I mean, I didn't buy it, I didn't use it, but I was very happy to see it because that calls back to the Capcom 4 or whatever, which was always
5,
fun.
I think, wasn't it?
Oh, 5? Okay.
Yeah, Jeff, did you get that reference? Killer 7 is the name of that other Capcom game. Surreal's favorite game of all time.
Yeah.
And that made you feel happy?
No.
Okay.
I think I did buy that Magnum because it was like 40% off the first time I saw it, and then I did not use it a single time. But the merchant got me on the sale, That's
yeah.
It's like this time only, 40% off. It's like that's
right.
a lot that's big savings.
Merchant going out of business sale. Clay Carroll writes in and says, I deflected an axe throw with a grenade. I wasn't even trying. Top tier gamer. Top tier gamer, Clay. Congratulations. Evan D says, I can no longer sit idly by hearing the horrible slander against the laser sight in Resident Evil 4. By far the best 10 spinels I spent in the entire game. Not only does it add even more nostalgia for the original, but it serves the practical purpose of eliminating reticle bloom. This means all shots have pin-perfect accuracy no matter what. Also, fully upgraded Punisher is the best pistol that doesn't use magnum ammo. Shooting through 5 granados at once? Yes, please, says Evan. By the way, Jacob Geller, you're smart. Spinel, spinal. Are you confident on spinal?
I actually don't know.
Okay.
I've always just said spinal, but like, who knows?
Who knows? Let's see. The Chun says, playing this entire game with headphones on not only ratcheted up the tension, but made me quite adept at pinpointing exactly where every squeaky hanging treasure was located. That is, until busted swinging fluorescent lights are introduced that make an almost identical sound. You raise my hopes and dash them quite expertly. Bravo, Capcom. That is a very smart detail.
Apparently it's Spinel.
Spinel?
Yeah.
Ashley Spinel? Weird. Dan H writes in and says, oh, hello, welcome, Ada. Dan H writes in and says, loving the separate ways tease in the final conversation between Leon and Ada. I think we both know this is where we go our separate ways, as Jacob referenced. On another note, as soon as I finished, I wanted to replay the game. How many of you restarted another playthrough or have intentions of doing it? Maybe Jeffem can try it on non-baby mode, says Dan. I think that's rude, Dan. Come on, man. I want to start this game. There's so many other games to play. It's always tough, but definitely playing it, I had that feeling that I rarely, only maybe get once a year with a game of like, what if I just kept playing this? What if I just played this forever? What if I just kept looping this for the rest of the time and this was my game? It is, I get the compulsion of like, it would be so much fun to blast through these areas again and again, but we can't all be as cool as Jacob Geller, I guess, is the takeaway. Is anyone else going to do a New Game Plus, you think?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I think I'm good.
Okay. All right.
That's where I'm at too. I read about people who are like, oh yeah, this is my professional pistol only run. And I'm like, wow, I'm tired. Have fun with that. I'm going to go play something else.
There's a lot out there. Atheist Preacher writes in and says, as a big fan of the 2005 Resident Evil 4, who's played it roughly once every year or two since its release, I can't help but wonder if this remake will have anything approaching the same longevity. Will people still be playing the remake in 18 years? Good question.
I don't think so.
Will they still be playing the original?
Yeah. Honestly, yeah.
Ooh, really?
Yeah.
I could see it. I'm trying to think
But
of
I don't know why. I don't think I can. I don't have a good argument.
I mean, it's just like the original is one of the most important games of all time, and this is not. You know, it's like that's why. It's because you play things that are influential even when they have been technically like superseded by the sequel or a remake.
Yeah. I'm trying
Also,
to think.
everybody will be playing like the third RE4 remake at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right,
it's going to be really cool.
Yeah, the cycle's going to get closer together. They're going to remake it again in like 4 years.
Well, I'm trying to think of like, Resident Evil 1 for the easy comparison of like, I feel like if you're saying, hey, I'm streaming Resident Evil 1, it'd be surprising if you're doing the original,
Yeah.
But,
it's different though.
Yeah.
Because like the Resident Evil remake was like a remake of a game that was good despite its technical shortcomings, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Like you play the original Resident Evil 1 and you're like, at the time you were like, this is incredible, but the PlayStation couldn't quite get there. And then they did the remake and it's like, all right, we got there. Where Resident Evil 4, I don't think has that issue. I don't think at the time everyone was like, this is great, but it has technical shortcomings.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose so. Patrick H says, I like to complete a game as much as possible before moving on. After rolling credits, I was really disappointed to learn that there is no chapter select. I only ever used one save file, so now I have no choice but to start from the beginning to grab collectibles I missed in later chapters. It's my only complaint. As a newcomer to Resident Evil 4, this game is stellar.
Only one save file thing.
That's odd.
Interesting, because I filled up every single save file and was upset that I was limited, and I eventually just had to start saving over them again.
Wow.
And then Sarah, did it become a huge mess for you? I need
did.
like I need an auto sort button for the save files because mine was like chapter 8, 2, 5, 13, 16. Like it's just a huge mess.
Yeah.
Do you guys go back and reload those saves though? Like, has it ever saved your butt?
No, but what if, I've played Final Fantasy before. I've been burned before.
That's right.
Yeah.
But what if?
As a video editor, yes. That's why.
Smart.
I usually do 3 or 4, and that's plenty for me. That's more than enough.
Nate T writes in and says, hey, you talked about Krauser's backstory. Just want everyone to know that it's in the Wii game called Resident Evil, The Dark Side Chronicles that covers it. Seems to have reviewed well, but I doubt many played it. Yeah, you can find a playthrough online if people are hungry for Krauser out there, and I know you all are.
I think I bought it right before the eShop went down.
Really?
It was like $2.99, I think.
What? $2.99?
Yeah, Resident Evil 4 Wii Edition was $2.99 on the Wii U eShop like a week ago. And all Capcom games were Zack and Wiki.
What?
Yeah.
Wow. Gene Frazier, otherwise known as Wombology, wrote in the most unique comment for the deepest dive. They say, I was 13 when I first played Resident Evil 4, a couple weeks after it came out, and I was obsessed with it. At some point, I realized I looked about as much like Leon's original Resident Evil 4 character as an underdeveloped preteen boy could. I was already such a smart-ass goofball, so instead of cosplaying, I thought it would be more fun to integrate Leon's one-liners and overall tone into my everyday personality. It became something that I fantasized about. I assumed everyone would think I was the biggest dork acting like this, but I was really committed to doing what I wanted. When I actually started to pull it off a couple years later, when I started to look more like him, to my absolute surprise, everyone thought it was a big improvement. People were saying I finally found myself and my true identity. Between friends, teachers, classrooms full of other students, even my parents, the sentiment was almost entirely universal. And the only thing people were split on was mentioning where I found my inspiration. The only people that were fully against me embracing full Leon were my nerdy friends that were familiar with the game and my love of it.
You would not be able to waterboard that information out of me.
Well, but if it went that well, and you know,
did it go well though? Like whoever admits, like, oh yeah, I like what you've been doing with your personality lately. Has anyone ever said that to you? Like, oh yeah, I really like the way that you've like changed your catchphrases up.
I feel like they probably just found something that made them feel confident. And like that was it, you know? They just had something, whereas before they maybe didn't have that much.
And maybe it was just the big coat with the collar on it.
Look, I do have that coat.
Somehow I have that coat in my closet too. I used it in like the intro video for this thing.
Yeah, well, you live in Minnesota. I have like 4 days a year that are below freezing.
For full Leon mode. That is interesting though. Like, how often in your life do you talk to a friend and talk about like, I've noticed a change in your personality? I feel like that's maybe one conversation in your lifetime with a friend of like, what's going on here? And it's just if they've become really depressed. But like that idea of like, hey, your quips are up like 25%. Something's going on and I like it. It's a weird conversation to have. But Wombology is a hero and they're probably going to be president someday. So we should support them because we should all.
Or shoot the president.
Or they might shoot the president. So if you're listening, Secret Service agents. Let's see. I think that's it, everybody. I think that's it for comments for the deepest dive from the community. Thank you, obviously, to everybody who submitted a wonderful comment along the way. Thank you to everybody who played along. Thank you to everybody who watched this on YouTube. You can help support this directly, again, by going to patreon.com/minmax with 2 N's. Help support the Game Club format. We appreciate it. And all of the previous deepest dives, which I think there are like 27 of them or something at this point, all of them are in the bonus podcast feed. So you can never stop listening to us and help support us at the same time. We'll live forever in your phone, but only if you support us at patreon.com/minmax with 2 N's. What a journey it was. Jeffem, how you feeling, big boy?
Great. This is the only way or format that I actually finish a Resident Evil game. So I'm glad. Yeah. I'm glad we did it again.
It forces you through it.
Like, yep.
There's a twisted part of me that thinks like, God, I love the original game, but you know, something like Dead Space when that remake came out, like I started it, I'm like, that's nice. I'm not going to play it again. And it's like, I am horrified by the idea that I wouldn't have played through Resident Evil 4 again if it wasn't for the deepest dive, because I'm so glad I did it, because it just reminded me of like, God, I love this game back in the day. And by God, I love this remake too. I had such a good time just getting in that groove again. It just, I know we talked about it last time. We're like, why aren't more games directly inspired by Resident Evil 4? But it is just like, what is going on here? It's just like perfect systems overlapping with perfect level design. And it's like, is it that hard, everybody? Why aren't more games directly in this world?
Perfect.
I know. It's right there.
I think it's because other games don't understand that guns are boring and it's more fun to kick people. The lesson everyone took from it is guns when they should have taken feet.
And it's also one of the things that I realized I liked so much about it is its ultimate overall scope is approachable. Where it's like I get to go into an area, I have it all mapped out, I can see where all the treasures are, I can go through and methodically just do everything that there is to do in this area, and it's not going to take me 100 hours to do it.
Yep.
It's like a lot of like satisfying checklist kind of things that you get through.
Yeah, it's yet another game that just makes you kind of regret the default living game open world formula in the game industry. You know, it's like, God, if you just make tight little spaces, everybody, it can be so fun to navigate this thing. You know, when we did the deepest dive on Arkham Asylum a while ago, it's like, God damn, just release one of these every 3 years. And I promise you millions of people will be happy. Sarah, do you think you enjoyed the remake more than your time playing the original 5 months ago?
Yeah, although I really liked the little things in the original. I don't think the bloat of the original made up for it, because there was a lot that they cut from this that I didn't notice and no one's gonna miss.
Yeah.
I'm honestly really glad they remade this game, because I don't think anyone under the age of 25 should have to play the originals.
Ooh,
Resident Evil 4,
Yeah.
honestly.
Okay.
It does not age well.
Okay.
When you can't move and shoot at the same time.
Yeah.
But I
Just
really
play in
think
VR.
they did
You're good to go.
just play it in VR. I just really think they did a great job with it.
Yeah. I'm really curious about that VR version for this, and especially I'm curious if Kyle's going to play through it yet again in VR.
Probably not all the way through, but I will absolutely download it and check it out like the day it comes out.
Okay. Sure. We'll have to cover the DLC for this game, either on the main show, the MinMax Show podcast, or maybe some other format. So we'll keep you all in the loop on this. But thank you so much. Huge thank you to everybody who submitted a comment. It was a joyous ride. Jacob Geller, thank you for bringing us home. What a champion.
Oh, yeah.
Any final thoughts from you?
Good game.
Good game.
I like it.
Good game, Capcom. Hell of a game. Again, thank you so much to everybody who supported this format. We appreciate it. We'll be back at some point in the future for the next Deepest Dive. There have been rumblings. If you listen to Party Chat, our bonus podcast, which now that I think about it, it's in that bonus podcast feed where the audio version of the Deepest Dives are. Hell, we talked about what we're probably going to be doing next for the Deepest Dive, which we swerved one way and then we're kind of swerving the other, if that's a hint for what might be coming up. But look forward to that, everybody. Kyle's trying to remember what maybe we talked about in a Monday meeting a couple weeks ago.
I have one, but anyway, whatever.
Okay, we'll figure it out. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. We appreciate it. We'll see you next time. Sarah, any wise words to take us out?
I think they should make the statue move again.
That's right. All right.
I think that was a big mistake. Big mistake.
That's right. Thanks, everybody. Goodbye. Did you know that you can more than double the amount of podcasts from MinMax every single week by supporting us at the $5 tier on Patreon? You don't have to listen through the browser or anything dumb like that. You'll get access to a private RSS feed if you support us on Patreon. You put it in your favorite podcast app, and then bam, you can listen to our weekly bonus podcast, Party Chat, the podcast versions of the Deepest Dives, MinMax interviews, Max spoilers, and you get the MinMax Show podcast a day earlier than everybody else. So please help support independent games media. Head over to patreon.com/MinMax with 2 N's.